Kelly with you on this Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody had a great weekend out there. Parker, what's going on?
Oh, nothing much. It is that time of year. So I guess summer's not officially here, but it feels like it, especially yesterday. It was 90 degrees.
Yes.
I got my first sunburn of the year, and it hurts incredibly bad.
Yeah, see, it was nice to go on my honeymoon and kind of get that out of the way. I got a really bad sunburn on my back the first day we were there, but now I feel like I've got that base layer down that I don't just get burnt by going outside.
That's
like I typically
the good part about it. I definitely applied some aloe this weekend on the shoulders.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It is the sun is starting to get hot out there. I think it's going to be high 80s, 90s all week long.
Yeah, the fact that it was 90 yesterday, it was miserably hot.
Which I'm at the point in the year where I'm kind of okay with it. I like some heat, can go to the pool, but Memorial Day weekend coming up this weekend. So you want a little bit of heat, but I get tired of the heat pretty quickly. So we'll see how long we can make it throughout the summer. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you throughout the show. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lots to get to today, but let's start with the news this morning. Ian Rappaport, Mike Garafolo reporting that the NFL owners going to meet tomorrow and they will vote on the possibility of a Super Bowl in Nashville in 2030. Super Bowl 64 possibly coming to the new Nissan Stadium. Looks to be pretty much just a formality at this point. And it's not a surprise, something that has been talked about for a while. But it will be cool that hopefully tomorrow will be finalized that a Super Bowl is coming to Nashville in just 4 years.
Yeah, and it was initially I'm going to say speculated instead of reported by Dan Patrick because nothing was confirmed, but it's common sense, right? I mean, we all knew that this was going to happen. That's part of the reason why they wanted a new stadium to be able to host Super Bowls, host Final Fours, host national championships, things like that. And just given how well the draft did when it was here, this is going to be a huge success. I heard Robbie and Joe talking about who is going to perform the halftime show, and they left off a pretty big name. And I'll leave it at that for right now. We can speculate later. We'll have plenty of time.
I mean, as Robbie and Joe said at the end, we'll take your suggestions for Super Bowl halftime shows all the way up until 2030.
The next 4 years.
2029, we will find out who is going to be playing the halftime show. I do think the easy answer is Taylor Swift. She's going to get asked to do it. If she has not done one by 2030, she has been the one artist who everybody has said is going to do one at some point. And I think she does get asked every year, but continues to say no. Maybe Nashville. I know she isn't from Nashville, but went to high school in Nashville. Like, I do think that she is going to get asked, and maybe this is the one that she finally says yes to. But there's plenty of good options. I think it's going to be some sort of country-ish artist. Like, again, Taylor Swift.
It has to be.
Taylor Swift, not a country artist anymore, but she started that way.
She'll sing her old stuff.
Right. She'll sing some of the old stuff. If I had to pick a country artist right now, obviously music changes over 4 years. I don't think they're going to go back in the past. They want somebody who can appeal to a wider range of audiences. I think Luke Combs would be my answer. Morgan Wallen obviously is a big superstar, but he's got more of the controversy. I think Luke Combs would be the answer if they're going to go with a current country music artist beyond Taylor Swift, who obviously is not.
Yeah, Luke Combs would be a good one. I mean, Jelly Roll is an easy one because he's from Antioch, and that would just make sense. Diehard Titans fan. I think Lainey Wilson would be a good one. Obviously, I'm going to say Ella Langley, but
you have to have such a deep catalog of songs, and I just don't think Ella Langley's there yet.
Well, not yet, but right. By 2030.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe she,
And what? How long is a typical halftime performance? 20 minutes?
I'd say 10 to 15.
Yeah.
But you have to have music that appeals to all audiences. And I know Ella Langley's big right now, but we've seen a lot of artists come and go. Like, if she was going to do the halftime show, she would have to erupt into a Taylor Swift-like figure. And that's very rare. I'd say no on Jelly Roll. Like, I understand. I love the story. I heard Joe say this earlier. Love the story of Jelly Roll. and deserves all the success he's having, I would say no on a Super Bowl halftime show for Jelly Roll.
I mean, there are plenty more. Chris Stapleton is one.
Stapleton's at Nissan this weekend. Maybe it's a tryout for Super Bowl halftime show. He would be great. And I do think, as we saw when he sung the national anthem at the Super Bowl, which, Stapleton, singing a national anthem versus singing your own music is very different. But I do think Stapleton could appeal to that wider range just because of how talented he is.
I know there's the controversy with Morgan Wallen, but think about he's been doing his stadium tours. I mean, that appeals to a lot of people.
I agree. There is a large audience for Morgan Wallen, but I think the controversy might scare the NFL away a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a possibility, but it would be entertaining.
But again, they're not going to make this decision for another 3 years. I would say the summer.
We're getting a head start on
it. The summer of 2029 is probably when these actual decisions have to start being made. So music's going to change a lot in the next few years. We will have to see.
But one thing's for certain, it has to be country.
I agree.
Because country doesn't appeal to, the entire nation, but it's Nashville.
Yes.
So
I agree. Has there been a country halftime show before?
I was wondering that on my way in. I think Shania Twain's appeared,
but hasn't had the
It hasn't been her.
Yeah.
Lainey Wilson's performed in I think it was the Thanksgiving halftime,
right?
But that was with Snoop Dogg.
I think that this would make a whole lot of sense for it to be country, but I also. It was funny. Robbie and Joe were talking with Corey, and Corey was like, just have Red Panda do it.
We don't need Corey's input on this. We don't need his input.
How about the holograms of Prince and Michael Jackson do a tandem halftime show?
He'd turn it off.
He suggested Red Panda. I was like, and I love Red Panda. Red Panda is a
I don't feel like
she is an international treasure. But how funny would it be if the Music City Super Bowl was the one with no music? It's like, oh, we're just gonna do we're
gonna have Nate Bargatze.
We're gonna do a dogs with frisbees at halftime on the field, just like one of these college basketball halftime shows. A couple of texts on the text line here. Wes in Clarksville says Nashville Super Bowl better be country halftime. I would think it would be. It would just make too much sense.
Has to be.
Chip from Mount Juliet says it's more pop country now. Yeah, it is. You've gone away from the 90s country sound, and there's still artists who do it, but for a Super Bowl halftime show, it's got to appeal to a broader audience, right? You couldn't have Turnpike Troubadours or something go out there, even though it's that's country music.
Alabama, which is what Joe suggested. I love Alabama.
If you wanted to go 90s country,
maybe they could come on for a song.
Yeah, well, I would like that. How about do what LA did with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem and that group, and do that for country music. So you could have Luke Combs come out and maybe he's the headliner, but have him bring out Brooks and Dunn and bring out George Strait. I think that could be
you get a mashup of artists.
That's kind of
make it legendary.
You saw what LA did for their, hey, we're gonna do the rap and pop scene.
That was fantastic.
I kind of like it. I like
it.
Let's do a mashup of country artists. I think that might be the best option here for Nashville Super Bowl in 2030. Again, not officially confirmed, but a vote tomorrow among the owners. And I think it's merely a formality at this point that the Super Bowl will be coming to Nashville in 2030. Super Bowl 64 will be here. Lenny says, really? You're saying that Bad Bunny appealed to a broader audience? Yeah, I think so. That one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me when they announced it. I think you try and go with somebody who appeals to 80% of people. And I think Bad Bunny was a smaller portion than that. But I also think that, if you went with a niche country artist, it would be a smaller percentage too. But I do think a mashup of country artists, old and new, I think that could be really cool.
I'm for that. I am 100% for that.
Keegan says, I think outlaw country takes another few steps in its comeback in the next couple of years. Going to end up with Sturgill Simpson doing the halftime show. Would love it. There's a difference. Let's go to Corey Curtis's take for a second here. There's a difference between appreciating greatness and liking the music. I I think there's a difference between what I would want as the Super Bowl halftime show and what the NFL would actually choose. And so I do think the mashup would actually end up being exactly what you would want. You could bring back some older country artists, but I think that maybe it is Morgan Wallen. Maybe it is.
You're appealing to multiple generations of
right.
country because you have your new and then you have your old as well.
I agree.
And it's Music City. Like, you got to go out with a bang here.
I think we've solved it, Parker.
We need to be on the board.
Let's say, all right, NFL, here's your options for the Super Bowl in 2030. Call Taylor Swift, make her say no. If she says no, call up like 5 or 6 country artists, maybe 2 current or 3 current and 2 from the 90s and older, and have them all come out together. Boom, solved it. 615-737-1025. If you want to chime in, we'd love to hear from you. We'll take your thoughts on some of these music acts. We've got some good ones on the text line. 9708 says Justin Timberlake solo would be great. He's rocked the Super Bowl before. I don't know if they'd go back to the well.
I want to do something unique. I don't want to do something that's been done before. There's never been a full-on country halftime show.
That's what
it's Nashville.
Thinking.
You have to.
Here's a good one from 0178, and this kind of combines our 2 ideas there. Taylor Swift and Garth Brooks. Bring them together.
I do like Garth Brooks.
I think it would be difficult because I don't know, like Taylor Swift's new stuff wouldn't mesh very well with Garth Brooks. But if Taylor was willing to like sing with Garth, like, I see the thing with Taylor Swift being who Taylor Swift is, I think it would be just her or nothing. Like, right? Like, I don't think she's willing to share the stage.
I mean, she's big enough where she doesn't need others.
She doesn't need to share the stage, but that would be cool and it would appeal to pretty much
Is Taylor
everybody.
Swift a slam dunk for Nashville?
If she hasn't done
she
she doesn't do it in the next 3 or 4, how many? 3. Yeah, 2027, 2028, 2029. If she does not do it in one of those 3 years, I think she will be the first option here in Nashville. But, she has to say yes, and she hasn't so far. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Tune in for the Indy 500 race on 1025 The Game this Sunday. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. and is brought to you by Twin Peaks, home of the 29-degree beer, and the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix. Off and running on this Reaction Monday. We've got lots to get into. Let's talk Titans on the other side. OTAs open today, and Terry McCormick had a very interesting report over the weekend about a former Titans legend coming back to help a young Titans player. We'll get into it coming up next. We'll talk college football today. We will talk Preds. All of it coming up here on the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley alongside you on your Monday morning. This is older Taylor. Is this
Old,
from
like maybe her first album?
Red, Fearless, something in there?
It's before Fearless.
Okay. So, God, what was her first? Was it self-titled, her first album?
It might have been.
I have no idea.
That's because it just says Taylor Swift on here.
My wife was a huge Swiftie. Like, I wouldn't say she's as big on her new stuff, but when she was in like high school, huge on Taylor Swift.
Well, yeah. When she was a country artist, I loved it.
Yeah.
Now the new stuff, I don't really.
I've heard all of like her first few country albums. I've heard like sparingly some of the newer stuff that she's put out. Let's get into the Titans specifically. I know there's a lot of thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show for 2030. The report this morning from Ian Rappaport that the owners are voting and likely the Titans or Nashville will be finalized as the site for the 2030 Super Bowl 64 tomorrow. But the Titans do open OTAs today, and they've got 10 practices over the next month or so, starting today. And there was a report from Terry McCormick of Main Street Media, Titans insider, over the weekend, saying that the Titans are planning to have an extra coach around for a little while in training camp. Titans legend Javon Curse will be at Titans training camp this summer with the purpose of lending some pass rush pointers to Femi Oladejo. I think this is a phenomenal idea. And when I saw that, it shows me that the Titans believe that Femi Oladejo has so much untapped potential, but it's just so raw. And with Javon Curse, a guy who was a physical, athletic freak, he's the freak, to be able to go out there with Femi, who, I mean, I'm not going to say that Femi is the freak when it comes to the physical stature that he has, but
Femi's built like one.
Femi's a big dude.
Yeah, he's built like an action figure.
Femi was carved from marble. So getting a guy who is able to take those physical tools and turn it into early production in his career. I mean, Javon Curse, obviously his rookie season was massive, helping the Titans to the Super Bowl. Getting him out there to help Femi Oladejo with the finer areas of pass rush, I think that is absolutely awesome because this is a huge year for Femi. Heading into year 2, you're a second-round pick. You've got to show something. And the Titans have already spent another first-round pick on a pass rusher. Keldrick Falk, a different type of player than Femi Oladejo. But this is a big year because if Femi doesn't flash this year, I think you go into next year realizing that you may not be able to count on him moving forward. And for a guy that you spent a second-round pick on, especially in Mike Borgonzi's first draft, you need to see him actually produce this year. This staff clearly believes he has potential and feels this is the offseason to capitalize. And by getting a guy like Javon Curse out there, I feel like this is an awesome idea from the Titans coaching staff to help out their young player.
Yeah, and I feel like where the Titans really went wrong is for a guy that was already so raw coming out of UCLA, played half of a season at edge rusher, they didn't have a plan for him. Their plan was just let's throw everything at him, let's throw the kitchen sink at him and see what he picks up on. For a guy like that, you have to have a specific, specialized plan, and with this staff that they're going to have that. Salah's a defensive mind. He loves having edge rushers that, you can rotate in. The guys are going to play 60%.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is a good plan for Femi. And the fact that he went out of his way to mention him in the press conference that, hey, this is a guy that we believe in. He definitely has the attributes. He definitely has the body type for it. Now you just got to hone in on the things that he's really good at. And I haven't sold my stock on him. It was unfortunate he got injured. That certainly stunted his growth. But if there's a guy that you feel like can get the most out of him, it has to be Robert Saleh.
I agree. I think the Robert Saleh hire was good for Femi. We speculated a little bit right when the hire was made of does switching to a 4-3 leave Femi without a real natural spot. And Robert Saleh immediately cleared that up really early on, maybe even in his introductory press conference was asked, where does he fit? And Robert Saleh said last year, we scouted him as a hand-in-the-dirt 4-3 defensive end. And throughout the offseason, when Robert Saleh has been asked about the pass rush, he has gone out of his way to mention Femi Oladejo. He has said, when there was a question asked about like, hey, who's going to play the wide nine? You know, you take Keldrick Falk. He fits more in the John Franklin Myers prototype of, yeah, he can play inside. You'll have him outside on rundowns, but he's not that wide nine speed rusher. They said they believe Femi Oladejo can be that type of guy. Now, you had to plan as if he was not going to be super productive this year, right? Like, I think it was smart of Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh this offseason to say, we have to bolster the pass rush on the edge and cannot bank on Femi being a breakout candidate in year 2. So you go out, you get Jermaine Johnson. You bring in a veteran guy like Jacob Morton, who had, I want to say, 6.5 sacks with the Commanders last year. You draft Keldrick Falk in the first round. But you still leave the door open for Femi to have a role as a pass rusher. And hopefully, with Javon Curse coming in to help him, with Robert Saleh and Aaron Whitecotton and what they've been able to do for young, raw pass rushers in the past, I do think that Femi has an opportunity to take a big step forward this year. But for a guy like him, I don't know how many more opportunities he's going to get beyond this year. And if you look back at the end of the season and he's hurt again, or let's say he only has like 2.5 sacks throughout the entire season, I think you maybe look at it and you say, all right, there's the first bust for Mike Borgonzi. It's not his fault he got hurt this year, but even before he got hurt, it's not like he was lighting the world on fire. He didn't have any sacks, right? I want to say he didn't have any.
No.
Really, the only production that we saw him have was when they kind of ran a boot or a slide play and he came unblocked off the edge. And now he made plays over there, a couple deflections, made a couple tackles for loss, but he was not making the production in the pass rush that you expect out of a second-round draft pick. I think the staff realizes that this is a really important year for Femi Oladejo, so you got to throw out all the stops. It's like, all right, we're getting Javon Curse in here. Playing only 60% of the snaps, I think, will be good for Femi Oladejo. Robert Saleh is going to put him in situations where he can succeed, but it's going to be up to Femi Oladejo to take that step forward and prove that the potential and the athletic traits that he have can actually translate into pass rush production, because that's what you need out of a second-round draft pick.
And you're 100% right. Of if things do not go well for Femi this year, that may be all she wrote, which is very unfortunate. UCLA, when he was there, they had a great defensive coordinator by the name of Danton Lynn, who recognized that, hey, this guy probably is not an inside linebacker. We need to move him to edge rusher. And they did that, and that was the right call. Now that he's in the league and he doesn't have a lot of experience, he doesn't have a lot of time on task. And you add that to, oh, he got hurt in his rookie year too, and now everything's so sped up. So there wasn't a lot of development that was involved with Femi. And that just kind of goes to show you the state of the game. And in addition, NIL transfer portal has slowed development down a lot at the college level. Femi never transferred, but at the same time, the point remains the same. He just didn't have a lot of time on task. So now everything is sped up, and it's like drinking water from a fire hose, which kids can either handle that really well. And I say kid, I mean, he's built like a man. So he just doesn't have a lot of time on task. That's what I'm saying.
And I think that's why you see some urgency here from the Titans staff with Femi Oladejo of they've got to get him as many reps as possible, and they've got to get him into the mode of being a true pass rusher, right? They even last year playing in that 3-4, they had him dropping back into coverage.
That
sometimes.
never needed to happen.
No,
never needed that.
Femi Oladejo this year, it seems like based on what we've heard from Robert Saleh, he is going to be pin your ears back and go get the quarterback. Because you're not going to need Femi Oladejo on rundowns very much. You look at the front four on rundowns with Jermaine Johnson and Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers and Keldrick Falk, and you've still got Solomon Thomas and Jordan Elliott. Like, you're not going to need Femi on rundowns very often. He's going to be somebody that you say, go beat the man in front of you and go get the quarterback. And he's got to do it this year.
I went out to practice, and in 7-on-7, I saw him working with the linebackers and the corners on dropping back into coverage. And I'm like, I'm not a defensive coordinator. I'm an offensive mind. But at the same time, what are you doing? Like, he does not need to be doing that. And compared how Denard Wilson wanted to use him to how Robert Saleh wants to do it, he wants him to put his hand in the ground and rush the passer. A lot of times, Denard Wilson would have him stand up in a 2-point stance, drop back to coverage, sometimes rush the passer, sometimes set the edge on rundowns. Like, it's completely different.
Well, in a 3-4, those outside linebackers have to be able to drop into coverage. I mean, we saw it with Harold Landry all the time. Even when he
That's
was the
just not his
Titans'
game.
best pass rusher, he would drop back into coverage sometimes. But with
That's why the 4-3 suits Femi a lot better.
right, that and I think in our minds when Saleh was hired, it was like, all right, well, he used to be an inside linebacker. Does he fit this 4-3? But when you're trying to transition the guy to being a straight up pass rusher, it helps to have him just focus on rushing the passer, right? Like that's, and I think this year, Robert Saleh realizes the potential that Femi has, but also the urgency of it, where if it doesn't happen this year, I don't know if it's going to happen with Femi Oladejo. So you're going to see Javon Curse in there for training camp. I believe Terry McCormick also reported he will spend some time over at Vanderbilt Sports Park for OTAs, helping out Femi Oladejo. Going to be a big year for the second round pick in his second
That's
season.
who you want. If you want anybody helping Femi, that's who you want.
Right, exactly. It's I thought that was a match made in heaven, and hopefully it helps Femi Oladejo lead to some production in year 2. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. All of our football offseason coverage brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks. From kickoff to last call, Tennessee Brewworks is the official craft beer of the football offseason coverage on ESPN 1025 The Game. Femi is just a cog, though, in this Titans pass rush. Let's look around the rest of that group. The interior looks strong, but there are some question marks off the edge that could be the difference from this defense of Robert Saleh being one of the top units to being just middle of the pack. We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Little Stapleton coming back.
When's the concert? This weekend?
I believe it's Saturday.
Saturday.
I think I'm gonna head out there. I think me and my wife still have to get tickets, but it's a great show. I think Lainey Wilson's opening.
Oh, wow.
I've never seen Stapleton in person. That's one of the guys that I've wanted to see. I haven't seen Luke Combs in person either, which that's the one that one is on my list of I've got to see.
I went to see him at Neyland. It was fantastic.
I know. I kind of wish he came here this year, but I know he went to Neyland. He was he at Lambeau this weekend?
I don't know, but I know a weekend ago he was in Norman, Oklahoma, and he sang Ain't No Love in Oklahoma at the end. And it started raining and thundering a little bit, which is just perfect. I love that song because I love Twisters.
Yeah, that is one of I don't know, one of his better songs, but it's definitely up there. Luke Combs definitely on my list. We were going through possible Super Bowl halftime shows at the Nashville Super Bowl in 2030. I think Stapleton would be on the list. I don't know if he would be at the top, but I think he would appeal to a pretty wide audience for the NFL. We're talking about the Titans pass rush here as OTAs begin today. And Terry McCormick reported over the weekend that Javon Curse going to be helping out Femi Oladejo throughout the offseason and into training camp as he looks to have a big year 2 after an injury-shortened rookie season where he didn't produce very much, 0 sacks as a rookie. But overall, this Titans pass rush group, I think we can agree the defensive line is the strength of this team on paper. And that's a Robert Saleh defense, right? Like that's exactly what he wants. He wants a deep and talented defensive line, and they've got that. Of course, Jeffrey Simmons is the centerpiece. Coming off a first-team All-Pro season, his first double-digit sack season of his career. You bring in John Franklin Myers from the Broncos after a great season, familiar with Saleh's system from the Jets. You trade for Jermaine Johnson. You draft Keldrick Falk. You bring in Jacob Martin. Like, they have put a ton of resources into this defensive front. And on paper, it's the strength of the team. But I do wonder, how much are the edge rushers going to be able to get to the quarterback, right? Like I have full faith in Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers getting to the quarterback, but from the interior, yes, you can make a whole lot of plays and you can really muck things up from the interior, but Jeffrey Simmons is probably not going to be a 12-sack player this season. John Franklin Myers is not going to have more than 7 or 8 sacks this season. You're going to need production from the outside. And of course, Simmons and Franklin Myers are going to help those guys. Coming off the edge, you can clean up after Simmons and Franklin Myers, hopefully blow it up from the interior. But I do think this pass rush could be one of the top units in the league, but you need to see at least 1 or 2 of the 3 guys on the edge have a huge season. Maybe not huge, but big season. Jermaine Johnson, Keldrick Falk, Femi Oladejo. I think those 3 guys need to combine for like over 20 sacks. Does that sound like the right number for those 3?
Sure. Yeah.
Like
that's fair.
If John,
certainly a reachable, attainable number.
I was trying to keep it realistic because, like, I think you get to 25, and that's like, all right, they all need to average 8 sacks, and I just don't know if that's realistic for all 3 of them, especially Falk is a rookie who didn't sack the quarterback last year at Auburn. But I think if one of them can be a 10-sack guy, and Jermaine Johnson would be the guy I'd look at, coming a year removed from the Achilles injury, he's been a Pro Bowl level player before. I would say I'd like to get 10 plus sacks from Jermaine Johnson. And then if Falk and Femi can combine for 10 to 12, I think that makes your pass rush really dangerous with what you already have on the interior. Last year, Robert Saleh's team, they didn't sack the quarterback all that much. I want to say they were second worst in the league at sacking the quarterback. Now, injuries had a large role in that.
That was certainly a unique situation.
Right. Like Nick Bosa missed all but 3 games out of the season, and he still finished like 3rd on the team in sacks. Even though he was 4th on the team in sacks despite only playing 3 games. So you've got to take that with a grain of salt. But I do think this Robert Saleh defense has a strong defensive front. And if those edge guys who are all question marks in one way or another, Johnson, Falk, Femi, if those guys can become a solid group to pair with what could be an elite interior group, I think that could make this Titans defense maybe closer to the top 10 to 12 in the league. Whereas if they're just okay, you're probably more middle of the pack.
Yeah, so I do feel pretty good about the Titans defensive line. I will say I still have a lot of concern at the edge rusher position specifically. I think you're fine with, your defensive tackles with John Franklin Myers, who will play inside, Jeffrey Simmons, Solomon Thomas, I think is a good defensive depth piece. Jackie Marshall was a 6th-round pick, so we don't really know what to expect from him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying to make the team.
Keldrick Folk has a lot of development to do because he didn't get to the quarterback enough at Auburn, but the intangibles are there. But when you look at your edge rusher group specifically, I mean, Jermaine Johnson's fine, right? Femi, he still has a lot of development to do, as we just talked about. I just don't know if the edge rushers will be able to get to the quarterback enough, which concerns me.
I think the rotation helps. You're going to have fresh legs on the field for the most part. And having a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, who's going to draw double teams on a consistent basis, is going to give a lot of those guys one-on-one opportunities on the edge. I need Johnson, Falk, Oladejo, and you could even throw in Jacob Martin and Jalen Harrell in there.
But Jacob Martin, what, a rotational guy?
Right. Him and Harrell are going to be rotational guys.
Jalen Harrell got to the quarterback, what?
He
got 5.5 sacks
last year.
Yeah.
I think Jacob Martin
that's
had 6.5.
fine if you're rotating. Like,
right.
That's great.
That group of 5 has to be able to win your one-on-one matchups, because you're going to get a lot of them with Franklin Myers and Simmons out there on the field with you. Those guys are going to draw the attention of the defense. You are going to be one-on-one with a lot of tackles.
And will they be able to beat those guys? That's my question.
Exactly. The Titans pass rush for the past, close to a decade, the edge rushers have struggled to win one-on-one. Harold Landry had a couple of years in there where he was able to do it. But the Titans pretty much over the last decade have been built around an interior pass rusher. It was Jarrell Casey, and then it's Jeffrey Simmons. I'm not saying that Jermaine Johnson has to be better than Jeffrey Simmons, but Jeffrey Simmons is going to make life easier for all of you. Go win.
And so will John Franklin Myers.
Go win one-on-one. And it's the job of Robert Saleh. It's the job of Aaron Whitecotton to put those guys in situations where they can go win. That, I think, is going to be a huge difference in this team's prospects this season.
Yeah, and another question I have is, I love the idea. It sounded good when Saleh said, we're going to try to get these guys to play 60% of the snaps. Are you really, if you have Jeffrey Simmons at your disposal, are you really going to play him 60% of the time?
I think 60% is probably like...
That doesn't apply to him?
I would hope not, right?
That doesn't apply to John Franklin Myers? I want those guys out there as much as possible.
If you're taking Jeffrey Simmons off the field 2 out of every 5 plays, then you're doing something wrong. I don't think that's going to apply to Jeffrey Simmons. I think he is going to be out there a whole lot more. But I think when you look on the edge, you've got that rotation of those 5 guys we just talked about, whether it's Johnson, Oladejo, Falk. And Falk, I guess, will probably rotate more with John Franklin Myers.
If he turns out to be a stud, I'm a lot less concerned.
Falk?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
But again, it's will he be able to be developed properly?
Yeah. There's as there are with so many different spots on this Titans roster, there are question marks. And I think you feel better about some question marks than you do others. Like, I feel better about the question marks on the defensive line than I do on the offensive line. But if Falk, Johnson, and Femi all take steps forward this year, or, Johnson more rebounds to where he was before the Achilles injury, this could be a really dangerous defensive front. And as we know, having a pass rush that can get home with 4 makes everything easier on the rest of your team. Just like on the other side of the ball, if the offensive line is better, it's going to make things so much easier on everybody else.
Right.
I know Cam Ward's development is number 1 in terms of whether the Titans will succeed or fail this year. If Cam Ward takes a step forward, this team's going to take a step forward. But right after that, and this isn't a novel idea, the trenches are going to decide what this team is this season. If that defensive line can be as talented or be as productive as it is talented on paper, and the offensive line can fill some of the holes that we can see right now, this team could be a 500 playoff adjacent team. But if you don't see those edge rushers take a step forward, and you don't see the offensive line mesh like we hope it does, then things could fall apart quickly.
Yeah, for Jermaine Johnson, I'll make this quickly. He has 13 sacks in 4 years. I know he didn't play a whole lot in 24, played 2 games because of injury, but he had 3 sacks last year. For Jermaine Johnson, I feel like he's really good at setting the edge on rundowns. And he's very, very you can use him in a lot of different ways. But I feel like he's really good on rundowns specifically. But his career high in sacks is 7.5, which is good. But, the last 2 years have not been great.
Well, yeah, he had the Achilles injury and then was bouncing back from that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the one strength that I feel the most confident about that the Titans are going to be good this year is against the run. Defense against the run. With that front four, and then having Cedric Gray and Anthony Hill backing them up, I think this is going to be a really good defense against the run. But we've seen it for a decade now of the Titans, not every year, but most years, have struggled to get off the field on third down. And all of that comes with being able to get home with 4 and cover with 7. And Robert Saleh doesn't blitz all that often. If you can get pass rush productivity out of that group that is iffy at best right now, this team could be a whole lot better than maybe we're expecting. 615-737-1025. Let's go to the phone lines. Trey is called in. Trey, good morning. Thanks for calling.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing this morning?
We're doing great.
Better now.
Hey, I just want to say everything that you touched on with your research was spot on. And I want to reiterate, if the Titans want to be better than they were the last few years, this is basically all they have to do, bro, is watch the tapes from last year, and they should have a better understanding of what not to do. Just watch a few tapes from last year. We have our defense stink last year. Yeah, we were decent, but as far as the cornerback room, it was all right. But the thing that hurts me is that when Kansas City or somebody else goes into these playoffs, ESPN runs tape of the Titans getting burned, getting blown out, getting fumbled. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that. I love my team. I want us to do better. I want us to be better men, be competitive. Don't drop the ball, Tony Pollard, if that's your job. Cam Ward, you got to be better. Yeah, you showed some stuff last year toward the end of the year. Derek says it all the time that you're getting better. I'm hearing that you're getting better. Everybody's saying that you're getting better. I hope you stay trending north. Stay trending north. Take some of that heat off your balls, son. It don't have to come in that hard like that. But I believe if they want to impress me, they got to win the South. Basically.
Wow.
They have to win the South. This is Cam Ward's second year. He's played in 14, 15 games last year before he got hurt. They have to win the South. They have to, that period. And with Cornell Tate saying that 800 yards minimum would be good for me, that's bottom barrel. That's like bottom barrel. That's like 800 yards, 50 catches. That's like we're seeing something in the kid. 1,000 yards, all right, now we're talking some steam. But I got big hopes for this team. I love this team. I met Steve McNair. I love this team. This is my team. I'm the ambassador of this team. And I want us to do better and be better men and give thanks to God and go out there and work hard. And y'all have a good day. Thank you. I love y'all.
Thanks for the call, Trey. Always appreciate it. With what Trey's saying, winning the South can't be the expectation this year.
That would be huge if they did that.
It's not impossible.
I mean,
right?
you and I and Connor had the Titans going 7-10 this year,
and I think
which would be great.
I think
that's a huge improvement.
7-10 is a
4-win improvement
estimation.
From last 2 years.
Honestly, it might be an optimistic estimation of what the Titans might be this year. I know that we're sitting here in May, and this is the time of good feelings, right? Like it's the honeymoon phase of, you got a new coach who hasn't coached in a game for your franchise yet. Cam Ward, you're looking at all the good things from last year and kind of ignoring some of the bad. That's what fans do. And honestly, it's what everybody does once you get into this period of the offseason. You start to say, if this goes right, oh, this team could be really good. But there's a reason you're saying if. Like the Titans' hopes of being a better team this year rests around a whole lot of ifs. And
we know what the word potential means.
Right.
Hasn't done anything yet.
And the odds that all of the ifs happen are very low. The odds that all of the ifs don't happen are also very low. It's going to end up somewhere in the middle of some of the things that you are hoping will happen will happen. Maybe Cam Ward takes a big step forward. Maybe Carnell Tate has a big year. Maybe the pass rush is great. Maybe the offensive line is better. But it's unlikely that all of those things are going to happen, which is why you're probably going to end up being an average to below average team this year, which as long as you're seeing progress, especially with your young players, I think is okay in year one under Robert Saleh, but it has to be trending in the right direction. As Trey said, keep that arrow pointing north. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, Jeremy in Clarksville says, I heard the Titans have impressed Trey as one of their goals this year. I believe that's written on the walls.
It's number one
over at the facility.
It's number one. As long as Trey's happy, then they've done a good job.
Yeah. Instead of fast and violent or all gas, no brakes written on the walls.
Impress caller Trey.
Impress Trey. 615-737-1025. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. You can chat with us there as well. We'll wrap up hour number one after this, talking Titans. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman and Parker Kelley alongside you on this Reaction Monday. Super Bowl likely coming to Nashville. Will be voted on by the owners tomorrow.
Do you catch a theme with the bump music?
Yeah, you're going with all of our options we discussed.
Right.
Get the Red Panda music.
It'll be country
going
music today just because it's going to be a country music halftime
I
show.
just can't see them going away from country music in Nashville, right?
I'd actually be pretty upset if they did.
I am fully on board, and I don't think I'm going to change my mind on this. They're going to ask Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is like that. I think every year the NFL asks Taylor Swift, and maybe Nashville's the one she says yes. But if she says no, country music mashup, new and old. Give it to me. No questions asked. I
think we're both on board with that.
I think that's a good.
And we should be hired by the committee that is in charge of this because our input matters.
Yeah, you can call 615-737-1025 and just give us that offer right now. Titans also opening OTAs today. We've talked about that. We will get into some college football coming up at the top of the hour, but let's go back to the phone lines. Dr. Locke has called in. Dr. Locke, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Good morning, man. What's going on, fellas?
We're doing great. It's a beautiful day outside. How are you, Dr. Locke?
Driving to work. I'm going to facilitate the economy one Honda sale after another. I'm gonna get you guys a bump in your 401s.
There we go.
But, hey, as far as the Titans go, I hate to say that Game 1 is a must-win, but Game 1 is an absolute must-win, in my opinion. This is a team that is a fragile locker room. It's a brand new coaching. They don't. I mean, it's not like a Kansas City Chiefs where if they start off 0-3, 0-4. There's not a single person worried in the locker room, right? So they've got to beat the Jets. They've got to be competitive in the game with Philly. They've got to have a competitive game with Philly, and that'll give them the confidence to go on the road and get the Giants, and you see where it goes. That's how it goes. They start off, and somehow they don't look ready to go Game 1, and they get blown out in Philly. It's going to be a long year of Paul Koharski droning on about how terrible the Titans are. It's, you know what I mean? Fans will turn fast on this team, so it needs to get off fast.
I 100% agree with you. I think that with the way the last two seasons have gone, getting a win in week 1 is just crucial for vibes. And I know you don't like vibes aren't everything, but it is something of just not only in the fan base, but in the locker room of not having that feeling of here we go again, right? Like you lose to the Jets at home in week 1. I think it can be easy to be like, oh God, it's going to be one of those seasons again, isn't it? Getting a win in week 1 could do a whole lot for just the morale.
It's not like one of those you have to absolutely 100% have to win, but you need to.
Yeah, no, it's not.
You get what I'm saying?
It's not a must-win, but
because if you lose to the Jets,
there's no such thing as a must-win in week 1. But if there was one, this would be close to it, just because of how horrible the last two seasons have been.
Got to have good momentum coming out of the game.
100%. Thanks for the call, Dr. Locke. Appreciate it. I think he makes a good point of like that it's the Jets. Like, and I know the Jets are probably saying the same thing over there. It's the Titans. You got to win week 1. But I do think the Titans for the momentum and just the morale of the city and the locker room, winning week 1 would go a long way.
Can you imagine on Monday after the Titans play the Jets and let's just say they lose? And in the process, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. gets a pick, and the Jets have already eclipsed their interception total from last year. Can you imagine the morale on Monday morning?
Yeah. No, I think getting to 1-0 is just like for both those teams. It's just like being above 500 would be massive. Again, the Titans haven't won an opener since 2020.
It's one of those you need to win, but it's not like, oh, if you lose, this whole thing is going to go to crap.
Right. A loss does not mean that the Titans are a 3-14 team again, but I think that's the feeling that would seep into the fan base and maybe even into the locker room. I don't know. Like there are a lot of people in that locker room, a lot of players who have been around for a 6-28 stretch here, and some who have been around for 12 wins in 3 years. If you want to get this thing turned around, that first step is a big one. Like just getting out of the gates strong, and then we'll see where it goes. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We're getting a lot of texts on the halftime thing. I want to push our college football conversation one segment, and I'm going to ask the question to you, Parker, and to Nashville. We're talking about a country music mashup for the Super Bowl in 2030. Give me 5 country music artists that you want to put together. Like,
you give me time, I'll come up with the best list you've ever heard.
The LA one was, I believe it was 5 artists that they put together, like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem, and I'm forgetting the whole list right now.
Yeah.
Give me 5 country music artists.
Ice Cube was in there, right?
Yeah, Ice Cube, that you want to see on the stage at Super Bowl 64 in Nashville. I've got an idea, and we'll do this coming back. 615-737-1025. We'll also talk college football and true freshman quarterbacks in hour number 2, as both local teams might be starting 18, 19-year-olds in 2026. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. The reports this morning, Ian Rappaport put it out there that the owners are voting tomorrow to finalize Nashville as the site of the 2030 Super Bowl in the new Nissan Stadium. And it seems like this is going to be the topic of the day here on the station. I heard Robbie and Joe talk about it a lot on Robbie and Rex Road. We've gotten into it a little bit of what is the halftime show going to be. And I've said I think you swing for Taylor Swift, right? I think Taylor Swift is the white whale the NFL has been chasing for Super Bowl halftime shows, and Nashville might be the spot you could get her. But if not, we've come up with the idea of a mashup. 5 country artists, new and old, coming together to sing some of the greatest country songs and, having a party on stage. So I asked the question, who would your 5 artists be? If you had to pick 5 country music artists to come out for the Super Bowl halftime show in 2030 and do a mashup, I don't know what mashup might not be the right word, but just all of them together like the LA Super Bowl back in 2022. Here are my 5. I'm going to go with, I've said I think Luke Combs has to be part of it. I think Luke Combs is number 1. I struggle with this one because I know he is controversial, but I think putting him putting him in as part of a mashup might be better. I don't think he could headline, but I think you could put him in as part of a mashup. I think Morgan Wallen. I'm going to put Carrie Underwood in there. I was debating between some of
I already like this.
Some of the more modern female country music singers. And you could go Lainey Wilson. I know you've suggested Ella Langley, but it's is there staying power there? Carrie Underwood has had the staying power of multiple decades. I'm going to say Carrie Underwood is my 3rd. I'm going with Garth Brooks. I mean, Garth Brooks is he still the highest selling country artist of all time? I think
there's so many.
You've got to put Garth Brooks in there.
Yeah.
And then last one, Keegan makes the point of you might have to put her in ICU to make sure she's still alive for the Super Bowl. She's only 80. At the very end, Dolly Parton comes out to wrap up the show. There you go. That's my 5. She'd be 84
I don't know
at
if
that
I
point.
could.
So
you think she'd be able to?
We'll see. But if as of right now, that's my 5: Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Carrie Underwood, Garth Brooks, Dolly Parton. At the very end to seal the show.
Dolly Parton is an icon here in Tennessee. I don't know if I'm beating that list, to be honest with you.
Do you what would your changes be? Because I'm sure you have at least some of the same.
Yeah, I have Morgan Wallen making an appearance. Okay. I don't think he would headline. I have Jelly Roll in there.
Okay.
I just feel like you have to. He's a Nashville guy. I just feel like you have to.
I don't know.
And he relates to a lot of people.
I like Jelly Roll. I don't think he would fit. But
I would do Lainey Wilson.
Okay.
Because she does have staying power.
Okay. Yeah.
Carrie Underwood, I like that one. See, I'm debating, I feel like you could go for this 5th one. You could go Garth Brooks. You could go Dierks Bentley. You could go George Strait. Dolly Parton, certainly. I just don't know at 84.
Right. That
might be tough.
That's the question.
Now, if I could have her, I'd absolutely do
right.
It. Kelsey, I don't know about Kelsey Ballerini.
No.
I like Kelsey Ballerini.
There's certainly some artists who are big and they could be part of a headline show at a stadium, but it's the Super Bowl. And I think those 5 artists, to me, it's those are all recognizable names to the average person, even if they don't follow country music.
You could go Reba.
Yeah, you could.
You could go Vince
Reba.
Gill.
Yeah. You could go like Brooks and Dunn. I think there's a lot of options. I do like the 5 that I settled on. We've got.
You have a really good. It's going to be hard to beat your list.
I think that would be a really solid.
Go through
show.
the 5 again.
Okay, so it would be Luke Combs. Luke Combs to me would be the headlining act.
Okay,
and it's
so Luke Combs is the headliner.
I think you would come out singing a Luke Combs song, like Beer Never Broke My Heart or One Too Many or something like that to start. That's your party right off the bat. I think Morgan Wallen would be number 2, Carrie Underwood 3, then Garth Brooks comes out, and then you wrap up with Dolly Parton.
See, I like your list. I just don't know about that's my thing. The age for Dolly Parton. I think Dierks Bentley is a very entertaining performer.
Dierks is entertaining, but Dierks he performed at College Game Day. right? I think
Yeah.
Dirks is a good college game day artist.
Okay,
I don't know if
okay.
he's a Super Bowl artist. Let's see. We got a couple on the text line. 9774 says Ella Langley, Luke Combs, Shabuzi, Jelly Roll, and Lainey Wilson.
That would be a very modern.
I mean, it'd be very, very modern.
You're not having, but if our goal is to mix and match some newer with older, then you got to have at least 2 old, 3 new.
I wonder what song Shabuzi would sing if they put him out there.
Just guess. Just guess.
He does have more than one song. I just love that joke. Sean says your mashup would be Keith Urban, Kenny Chesney, Dirks Bentley, Luke Bryan, Lainey Wilson. See, so like I like all of those artists, but outside of Lainey Wilson, like the 4 guys that Sean mentions are all more like 2010s country than they are like this is in 2030. Keith Urban, Kenny Chesney, Dirks Bentley, Luke Bryan. I think Kenny Chesney is the one out of those 4 that I could get behind. The other ones, I'm like, meh.
Okay, I'm going. Here's what I'm going. And this will probably change in the next 5 days, I'm sure. My 3 new, I'm going to go Jelly Roll, Lainey Wilson, Morgan Wallen.
Okay.
2 old, I'm going to go Carrie Underwood, even though she's not like old.
She's not old, but she's, the previous generation of country
and George
music.
Strait.
Okay. I like that. Get the king out there. Mark says Garth, Aldine, Combs, Church, Hank Jr. That's a good 5. I think you'd have to have a female artist in there too, but
Eric Church would
Eric Church would be a solid pull there. And then Hank Jr. I kind
of
like that too.
Is it possible to limit to just 5? Could you have 7?
Well, I mean, yeah. Could you just do I think it would be cool if they did like a eras of country music. Like you start with like you go way back and work your way up to modern times at the very end. Yeah. I think that could be cool. Justin says Keith Urban, Brad Paisley, Carrie Underwood, Lainey Wilson, Luke Combs. That's a good 5.
Yeah.
Paisley doesn't feel like a Super Bowl show to me. Like
he hasn't had a new music in a while.
Yeah. Brad Paisley's more like a sitting out on the boat or sitting by the pool kind of listen. Chip from Mount Juliet says it's hard to say who will still be relevant in 2030. Some newer acts are right around the corner and could be a sensation. And no, it's 100% true. Like 5 years ago, would you have said Morgan Wallen could be a possible like Super Bowl halftime act or would be selling out stadiums? Probably not. I mean, he was getting big at that point, but he wasn't what he is now. And like same with Luke Combs. 3912 says Garth Brooks, Tim McGraw, Luke Combs, Carrie Underwood, Kenny Chesney. That's a good 5 there. I could get behind that.
Yeah, I don't know about Keith Urban.
Yeah, Keith Urban, I would say no. Chesney is a good one. I think Garth has to be in there, and I think Luke Combs. You know, if you wanted to have some fun, just Garth Brooks and Luke Combs could be a great show.
Sure, absolutely.
Like, if you wanted to just do 2, let's see. Scott and Waverly says, I like both y'all's list, but the NFL is going to want new and up-to-date artists. Bailey Zimmerman and Morgan Wallen are the 2 best right now in general.
Bailey Zimmerman is on the rise.
That could be one of those guys in 2030 that we're not talking about as much now, but I don't know. I just think if you're coming to Nashville and you did like a multiple artist lineup, I think you've got to dip back into the history of country music.
You can't just do all modern.
I don't think you can just do country now. I think you have to go back to
You're trying to appeal to more people. And if you got some older heads, then you'd be appealing to the older generation of country.
9733 says Hank Jr. starts the show with Are You Ready for Some Football? There we go. That is a great idea.
Or if Kenny Chesney performed The Boys of Fall.
That would be good. I like that. Thomas in Nashville says, guys, I like all the country acts y'all mentioned, but I would add in Big X the Plug since he has that country collab album.
Shoes in Texas.
Thomas on
or not Shoes in Texas. I'm from Texas.
Yeah. Thank you for not saying the word before that. No, I maybe they would add like a rap element to it because of like, you got Broadway girls. Is that Lil Durk? I have no idea. No, I think this is a great idea. And I think doing a mashup could be a really strong move from the Super Bowl in 2030. But we've got so many good options here. I honestly,
This is a really fun conversation that we made 45 minutes out of. I love it.
honestly, I mean, we can keep it going. We've got more answers on the text line here. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to the phone lines. Chris is called in with some thoughts. Chris, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to break it to you. I don't know if you're aware or not, but the NFL really doesn't choose who's going to play because Jay-Z's music company owns it,
Oh,
and a lot of it is up to him, which is why
You're
it's
right.
been horrible the last couple of years. So, country to him might be getting Beyonce to play her crappy album and somebody else, but yeah, I mean, people have been asking
no
for Metallica for
Beyonce.
years. People have been asking for rock, everything, but it's never that, and that's part of the reason is because he owns the rights to do that with his company. So
that is a good point that I did not think of. Thank you for the call, Chris.
you got it, man.
Yeah, I mean, if Jay-Z is picking the artist, but I think Jay-Z also has to realize that like Nashville, they're being the music city and like all the country music here, you've got to have country aspects. Here's a thought of somebody like he might go with. I'm looking to see. Okay, he doesn't represent them. Like Post Malone. Like that's a guy who would appeal to kind of both sides of the aisle there. I wouldn't agree to it, but like
I know. Nothing against Post Malone, but he just recently turned country.
yeah, I know. Well, we'll see. Maybe in 2030. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. I got to get logged back into the text line here, but we will take more of your thoughts on this. If you had to pick a mashup of country artists to play at the Super Bowl in 2030, give me 5 artists. We've got lots of good ones on the text and phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1-2-5 the game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley alongside you. The Super Bowl likely coming to Nashville in 2030. The NFL owner is going to vote tomorrow and hopefully make it official that Super Bowl 64 will be at the new Nissan Stadium. And the discussion throughout the morning here on the station has been about who is going to be the halftime act. Joe and Robbie had some great ideas on Robbie and Rex Road from 6 to 9. We have come to the thought that you need I've been saying mashup. Justin from Greenbrier says showcase, and I love that. It is a showcase of country music, and we're giving you 5 artists. Let us know who you think the 5 artists should be to showcase country music on the biggest stage at the Super Bowl halftime show. Let's go to the phone lines. Matthew is called in. Matthew, thanks for calling. What you got for us this morning?
Hey, I appreciate y'all taking my call, man. This has been a very interesting conversation. I did just want to make a quick little point before I get to my list. Is I know, we live here, we're from here, so we're kind of in this country bubble.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is Music City, and so many music is recorded here. I think the showcase idea to kind of tie it all together, let's do the Jelly Roll, let's do the Kid Rock, let's bring them on, let's do Garth Brooks. Let's just try and pay homage to Nashville as a whole, not just, to keep it appealing to everybody, throw that Post Malone in there. Let's keep it going, kind of along those lines is my thought.
That's fair too, because it is Music City. It's not Country Music City. There's lots of music here of many different genres that are recorded. I will say, don't think Kid Rock's getting the invite. I think that ship has sailed after he went head to head with them last time.
I don't think it's going to happen either.
We got some good ideas on the text line. 5087 says, how about Shania or Faith Hill? I think Shania would be good. I heard Robbie and Joe saying that they think Shania helped out with another Super Bowl halftime show. Like she was on the field, but wasn't the headliner. I don't know, but she would be a good addition. 2616 says, I would add Riley Green, Cody Johnson, Ella Langley, and Bailey Zimmerman to that list.
Riley Green's my favorite artist, but I don't know if he's big.
And
but
we'll find, again, like it's 4 years away, a little under 4 years away. So things can change here. Steven in Clarksville. Brooks and Dunn, Luke Combs, Ella Langley, Jelly Roll, and Hank Jr. I think that's a good 5. Jelly Roll could be one of those, and I think you could put Post Malone. They're doing the stadium tour this summer together, and I think that fits because it's country, but there's also other genres in there. Like there's a little rock to Jelly Roll, a little rap, like same Post Malone. He was like hip hop rap for a while. I think you could add one of those and it wouldn't change the vibe of the show, but would also give a broader appeal to the rest of the NFL audience. I don't know. I think showcase, mashup, whatever you want to call it, is a great idea.
I feel like it's the route you have to go now, unless it is Taylor Swift who could do it solo. But if you're going country music, it has to be a mashup.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 0042 says, still talking about Super Bowl halftime in 3.5 years after an hour and 15 minutes. We did spend 40 minutes on the Titans.
Hey,
we came back to it.
Listen, this will be going on for the next 4 years, so buckle up.
How about this one? I no one texted this in, but I thought about it, just specifically for Big Joe Dubin. Florida-Georgia Line reunion at the Super Bowl in 2030.
Oh, no.
Just for Big Joe. And Big Joe's going to get on-field seats, front and center for Florida-Georgia Line making their big reunion at the Super Bowl.
If it was Joe, he'd want the Beach Boys.
They're opening with Cruz, and it's going to be great. They're going to bring Nelly out. Big Joe, biggest FGL fan out there as far as I'm concerned.
Gosh, it's so funny.
He's going to probably text in at some point here. We got lots of good ones on here. Sean makes a good point here. He says, Kenny Chesney and Dierks Bentley know how to play a large crowd without overshadowing the others, which Garth would do. I do understand what you're saying there of you want people who are going to mesh well together instead of somebody who's going to want to be the headliner and then have the background acts. But I do think Garth is like that. that's somebody that I think you would have to have be a part of this just because of how big he has been for 30 years. Hair Metal Henry says Nashville is called Music City because of the Fisk Jubilee singers. Whoever the artists are, they should be on the field as well singing backup. That's a great idea. I think as many nods to the history of Music City would be great as well. 0178 says the Eagles with Vince Gill as the tie-in. That could be a good idea. Eagles were just here at Vanderbilt a couple of weeks ago. So there's so many good options. And again, as we've been told, it's 3.5 years away. There's a long way to go. And we don't really know who is going to be big artists at the time. Like if somebody had told you 4 years ago that Bad Bunny was going to be doing the Super Bowl all by himself in 2026, I think you would have called them crazy.
I would have said who?
People were saying that the NFL was crazy for doing it even as it was happening. So, I mean, like it's still so far away that we don't know, but I do think I love the idea of not just one artist showcase country music, Nashville music as a whole, and bring it all together. William from Madison says, I can see Music of Tennessee bring in Memphis with Memphis artists and Nashville artists. I don't hate that idea as well if you want to make it a showcase of the entire state.
Yeah, I mean, you could get West Tennessee involved, Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee.
Yeah.
Dolly Parton and Morgan Wallen, both from East Tennessee, the Knoxville area.
I think this is an opportunity for the NFL to go a little bit away from what they've done in the past. Make it, there hasn't been a country music halftime show. Nashville's the perfect time to do it. I think 2030
it's
will be
now
the time.
Or never.
If they don't do it in Nashville, they're never going to do it. Right. Like,
and it's just never been done before.
But who else would they go with? Right? Like if it's not a country music artist in Nashville, are they just going to go with whoever the biggest artist at the time is? Like
Paramore.
She's
from Brentwood.
I saw somebody said Haley Williams. I'm blanking on who it was. Anyway, it might have been.
She's from Franklin or Franklin Brentwood area.
Yeah. I mean, who would they go with? Like, is it going to be? I'm trying to think. God, what's the guy's name? Alex Warren. Like, if he blows up over the next few years, is that going to be the guy?
I didn't realize he was from Nashville.
I don't know if he is. I do think he might live here. But that doesn't make sense to me. It's Taylor Swift or a showcase of country music. That's I will not settle for anything less. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will get into college football coming up next. There was some rumblings about the Tennessee Volunteers quarterback competition over the weekend, and it made me think of true freshman quarterbacks starting at both Vanderbilt and Tennessee possibly this year. Neither have chosen a starting quarterback, but it's definitely a possibility for both schools. What should the expectations be for those young guys as they step onto the field for the first time in 2026? We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. The 615 Open Golf Tournament might be sold out, but you can bid on all kinds of awesome experiences to directly support Folds of Honor at 615open.com/auction. Have an unforgettable time while supporting a great cause, 615open.com/auction. Before we move on from Super Bowl halftime stuff, again, the report this morning, if you missed it, Ian Rappaport says the NFL owner is going to vote and officially make Nashville the host of Super Bowl 64 in 2030 tomorrow. So that was the news this morning. Very likely that Nashville will officially be in the queue for the Super Bowl in 2030. Did want to issue one correction. Christian called in during the break. He's not on the line, but wanted to correct us. We said there had not been a country music halftime show before. There was one. 1994. It was titled Rockin' Country Sunday at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Clint Black, Tanya Tucker, Travis Tritt, and the Judds.
But it was 32 years ago. Overdue for another one.
Yes, we are due for another one 36 years later by the time the Super Bowl actually happened. So wanted to issue that correction. But into college football here, there's been some buzz going on, Parker, and I'm sure you've seen this too, that Faizon Brandon, the true freshman quarterback for the Vols, might be ahead of George MacIntyre in the quarterback competition as we move closer to fall camp for the 2026 season. And wanted to get your thoughts on that, Parker. Obviously, neither quarterback is experienced. George MacIntyre is a redshirt freshman. Faizon Brandon's a true freshman. But it does seem like Brandon's physical development might be, or his mental development, getting into the playbook, learning the system, might be going a little bit faster than George MacIntyre's physical development.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if all things are equal, George MacIntyre will get the nod just because he has more experience, although not a lot. He does have more experience in the system, but if you look at the two, it's really unfortunate for George MacIntyre just based on his body type. He could gain 10 pounds and you not even notice just because of how skinny and scrawny he is. And Faizon Brandon physically looks like a junior in college already. So, but where his development has to be is more so on the mental side, whereas George, it may be a little bit mental, but it's mostly physical as well. I did see, if you're referring to Trey Wallace's comments, I did see those where he said Faizon Brandon might have the inside track. And that would not surprise me. That would not surprise me at all. There is going to be a huge learning curve because it's one thing to do it on the grease board, get up on the board, draw up plays in practice, and then go out on the field and do it on game day, especially in the SEC.
Yep. Because
it doesn't matter if you played at IMG Academy, it doesn't matter if you played at Donaldson Christian, wherever. There is going to be a learning curve because the SEC is just a different beast than high school.
Yes, and I think we are going to see that with possibly, again, nothing finalized. Neither school is named a starting quarterback, but it's very possible that both Tennessee and Vanderbilt are starting 5-star freshman quarterbacks this year. Faizon Brandon for Tennessee, Jared Curtis for Vanderbilt. And I think it makes sense for both schools to do so, right? You get your future in there as early as possible. And even if there are some bumps in the road, you get those reps in the SEC under his belt early so that hopefully in 2027, they hit the ground running and can end up being the players that you recruited them to be. But it's also difficult to look, especially at Tennessee, I think, and say, all right, well, the quarterback situation is in flux a little bit for 2 years in a row. Are you okay with being an 8-4 team again this year, or maybe even 7-5?
Well, don't expect 10-2 or 9-3.
Right.
That's what I would.
With a true freshman quarterback, I don't think you can. And I that's kind of how I wanted to frame this conversation is, how do you hedge your expectations for the team knowing that you have a true freshman quarterback? And I looked back at the last few years, 5-star quarterbacks who started from day one. There's only been 2, I believe, the last couple of years. Bryce Underwood and Dylan Raiola. And Bryce Underwood at Michigan, Michigan has a good team, not as good as their national championship team under Jim Harbaugh, of course. But last year, 2,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions for Bryce Underwood, and a 9-4 record as a 5-star true freshman quarterback. Not great numbers. Record's fine, 9-4, but maybe not to the expectations of Michigan fans. 2 years ago, it was Dylan Raiola. He had 2,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and the Huskers went 7-6. Again, fine, not great. And as you see, Raiola since then is now transferred, and he is going to back up Dante Moore at Oregon this year. Another guy that I wanted to put on here, he was not the starter from day one with Florida, but DJ Lagway. He came in for Graham Mertz about halfway through, kind of worked his way in. He had 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 picks, and the Gators went 8-4. Again, not with him as the full-time starter. And those numbers were enough for people to put him in the Heisman conversation heading into last year. And obviously things went awry after that. But DJ Lagway, 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 picks. That was enough for people to think that Florida had their savior. So I want to say with both Tennessee and Vanderbilt, I think you've got to go into this season understanding that there are going to be some hiccups from these true freshman quarterbacks playing in the SEC. It is not going to be easy for them to step in and immediately be a Heisman candidate, has your team with 10, 11 wins every single season. There's going to be, as you said, Parker, a learning curve to it. And I think you do like for both of these quarterbacks, if they end up being the starter, that your first game, not exactly a murderer's row. You get FCS opponents in week 1. Furman for Tennessee, Austin Peay for Vanderbilt. Those are going to be opportunities to get your feet wet, playing live game action.
But and my guess is we'll see both of them in that game, 100%.
Even if they're not the starter, yes, 100%. I would almost guarantee that Jared Curtis and Faizon Brandon will at least see the field in those games, even if they don't win the starting job from day one. But both of them also have that ramp-up game, which I think is really important. For Tennessee, it comes the next week against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. That game is in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, though, right? Not Bobby Dodd?
No, it's at Bobby Dodd.
Oh, it is Bobby Dodd? What game got moved to Atlanta? Was that Georgia Tech?
Auburn, Baylor.
No, there was a Georgia Tech game that they moved out of their own stadium.
Oh, last year versus Georgia.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Okay. So that's a road environment. Georgia Tech's a good team. They've been a good team under Brent Key the last couple of years. So I think that's something that will be a nice learning experience for him. For Jared Curtis, if he's the starting quarterback for Vanderbilt, you get Austin Peay and you get Delaware the first 2 weeks. Those should be good learning experiences. Then you get NC State at home. Again, not a juggernaut, but a solid team out of the ACC. But things are going to get hairy relatively fast for both of these quarterbacks once they hit SEC season. Tennessee's first SEC game is at home, but it's against Texas. And Texas looks to be loaded this year with talent, albeit maybe more on the offensive side of the ball. But Texas looks to be one of the best teams in all of college football this year. For Vandy, you go on the road at Auburn. I don't really know what Auburn's going to be in year one under Alex Golish, but it is still always a tough place to play, go down there on the plains. And then Jared Curtis, October 3rd, if he's the starting quarterback. Again, nothing's confirmed, but we're going through the possibility of both these schools having true freshmen starting at quarterback this year. Jared Curtis's second SEC game could very well be in Athens at Georgia.
Yeah, no, that's tough. So I want to go back to the Tennessee conversation for just a second, because
go ahead.
I've been wondering, given how passionate this fan base is, and I wouldn't consider Tennessee a traditional blue blood of college football, but they're definitely on the second tier. Given how passionate this fan base is, and Josh Heupel going into year 6, I've always thought to myself, okay, he's made the college football playoff in the 12-team era, but he's never won a game. And now he's going into year 6. So why aren't the fans kind of turning on Heupel? That's kind of been my thought. And I keep going back to, well, I'll just take me, for instance. I remember where Tennessee was before Josh Heupel. Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt, Derek Dooley, how awful and dreadful those years were. And now Josh Heupel at least has Tennessee in the conversation. So I don't think pass is the right word. They're not going to give Josh Heupel a free pass this year. But you take last year, what happened with Nico? That's never happened before, and it's very unfortunate. And then he worked some wonders with Joey Aguilar. Now this year, you're forced to start a true freshman quarterback. I think they view this year, I view this year as building towards 27, because 2027, if you don't do good this year, is the year where there's a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, I would not say Josh Heupel's on the hot seat heading into 2026, but I also don't think his seat is ice cold. Like, I think Clark Lee's seat right now at Vanderbilt is ice cold. And that gives Clark Lee, especially with Jared Curtis being the highest rated recruit in Vanderbilt history, like, it gives Clark Lee the leash of even if Vanderbilt does take a step back this year, which would be understandable with the true freshman quarterback and losing some of the talent you did, Clark Lee is going to get the leash to build it back up under Jared Curtis as his quarterback. With Heupel, I would say that, yeah, he's probably not getting fired this year as long as they are, you get 8 wins. But I do think if they go 8-4 this year and miss the playoff again, I do think questions start to pop up. And 2027 will be the year where it's like, all right, if it's Brandon going into year 2 or it's MacIntyre going into year 2, there's no excuses. That better be a playoff team, especially with the expansion happening. So I do think that, yeah, these programs both might be starting 5-star freshmen, but I do think the coaches are in different places, even if neither of them is in imminent danger of being fired.
Because I expect the defense to be good this year, just because they've kind of taken that time out. They've expedited the process of Jim Knowles bringing assistants over, bringing former players over to install that defense and kind of hit the ground running. Whereas, the saying is it takes a couple years to 3 years for defenses to truly understand what Jim Knowles is trying to install. They've expedited that by bringing former assistants and players. So I expect the defense to be good this year, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of the offense until you see, one, who's going to be named the starting quarterback, and two, what they can do in their first year as the starter.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Both local teams could be starting highly touted, highly recruited true freshman quarterbacks in 2026. Competition still needs to happen for Tennessee. We mentioned George MacIntyre. Who's the transfer they brought in there? Was it from Colorado?
Ryan Staub.
Yeah, Ryan Staub. He's still in that room. For Vanderbilt, you've still got Blaise Berlowitz there competing with Jared Curtis. But obviously, it is a possibility that both of those teams go with their highly recruited quarterbacks from this past year's class. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. But I've got some tickets to give away. Let's give away some NASCAR tickets here. Be caller number 3, and you can win a pair of tickets to the Sports Illustrated Resorts 250 at the Nashville Superspeedway on Saturday, May 30th. Again, caller number 3 at 615-737-1025 wins 2 tickets to the Sports Illustrated Resorts 250 at the Nashville Superspeedway on Saturday, May 30th. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley alongside you on your reaction Monday. Gotten into a lot today. Of course, the news of the morning. NFL owners going to vote tomorrow and likely finalize Nashville as the site for the 2030 Super Bowl 64. We've gotten into that. Titans OTAs starting today. Excited for that. Don't know how much you can really take from the OTA portion of it, but of course, it is setting the foundation. But we've gotten into some college football here. Tennessee, quarterback competition, George MacIntyre, Faizon Brandon, those are the two front runners. And there's been some reporting. You mentioned Trey Wallace in the comments that he made, Parker, of maybe Faizon Brandon has the inside track as we head towards fall camp in just a couple of months. And, of course, for Vanderbilt, Jared Curtis getting a lot of headlines. Looks like he's going to be in Nate Bargatze's new movie, The Breadwinner. So there's a chance both of these schools here in the state of Tennessee are starting true freshman five-star quarterbacks in 2026. And I do think that comes with an expectation that there is going to be a learning curve, that you can't expect these guys to come in and just light up the SEC as 18, 19-year-old. That just doesn't happen all that often. I just read through some of the stats of these recent five-star quarterbacks who made the start from day one, like Bryce Underwood last year. I think Michigan fans would all agree that they think Bryce Underwood is going to be a really good quarterback for them. But 2,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. It's okay. They won 9 games last year. Like it's a solid season, but they weren't really ever a competitor for the college football playoff. And for Tennessee, I think that is the expectation. For Vanderbilt, that is the goal. They were very close last year. And, of course, you lose Diego Pavia, you lose Eli Stowers, you lose some of the offensive line. But Jared Curtis is the player that you look at and say, we can get back to that spot and hopefully beyond it in the next few years. I was looking at some of the best true freshman seasons in recent memory. Trevor Lawrence, of course, is the big one that you can point to. He won the national championship. I believe one of 2 true freshman quarterbacks ever to win a national championship. Jalen Hurts went to the national championship game and lost to Clemson in one of those classics back in, was that 2016?
Yeah, that seems about right. 2016, 2017.
That was the Hunter Renfrow catch.
No, that would have been 2016.
At the corner of the end zone, I believe, if I'm remembering
that play all the time.
That season correctly. And then another guy that I loved, and I kind of hate that he never turned out to be a good NFL quarterback, Sam Howell at UNC. He was really fun to watch. Sam Howell followed by Drake May. Mac Brown at North Carolina may not have won as many games as they have wanted him to, but he had some really good quarterbacks in Sam Howell and Drake May. But those are probably the best true freshman quarterbacks lately, and they're outliers, right? Like you look at true freshmen who step in, usually it isn't going to be a perfect season. There's going to be games that you lose that maybe you feel like you should have won. There are going to be interceptions where you're thinking, what are you doing? But it's all part of the experience. You've got to let these guys make these mistakes and learn from them. And I think with Faizon Brandon and Jared Curtis, these are possible program-altering players that you've brought in. And I like the idea of letting them go out there and learn on the fly and being okay with some of the results not going your way in 2026 because it's going to make them better in 2027. But there also has to be the element of you can't kill their confidence, right? Like there has to be a balance between this of you want to put them in the right situation where they still have that confidence. We talked about it with Jared Curtis of like watching him in that spring game. I felt like he had the arm arrogance of I can make any throw out there. You want to keep that, but you also have to rein it in to the point where it's like, hey, you can't lose confidence when things don't go your way. This is the SEC. It's not going to go your way all the time. It's going to be a really delicate balance if both these programs do start their true freshman quarterbacks of letting them get those experiences, take those lumps, but also keeping their confidence high because we've seen young quarterbacks falter after a bad season before. It's a really tough situation to work through when you start these young players.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about Jared Curtis the most is as a quarterback, you can't play scared. You can't be afraid to make mistakes because as a true freshman, it's bound to happen at some point. So if you're playing and your coach is kind of that's why I don't like the threatening to bench you if you make mistakes, because that stuff is going to happen, especially as a true freshman. You can't go out there and play afraid, play like you are going to make mistakes, short arm balls, be too conservative where it ultimately kills your offense. So that's the thing that I like about Jared Curtis the most. Now, I will say, as a quarterback in Josh Heupel's offense, you turn the ball over a lot, it's not going to work, and you will get benched. So there is that aspect of it as well, but it's all about balance.
Yeah, and I think maybe that would be a reason to ease them in. Like, I think there's a decent chance that both Brandon and Curtis are strapping it up for week 1 as the starting quarterback. But I think the argument to ease them in and maybe have them play half of those games against Furman and Austin P, and then, maybe ease them in against those Power 4 opponents in Georgia Tech and NC State, because you don't want to throw them out there and have them struggle and either be left with the option of benching them, which could kill their confidence, or just leaving them out there to get crushed the whole season, where that could kill their confidence too. So that's the delicate balance that Clark Lee and Josh Heupel have to deal with, is that both of these players are supremely talented. It's about getting them those game reps without crushing their confidence and their ability to go out there and play free. And so that's why both these teams are really intriguing heading into 2026. Tennessee, in a spot where you really need to see progress from Josh Heupel, especially with these young quarterbacks. That's what he was brought in here to do, was for offense, to be a high-powered offensive football team. And for Vanderbilt, can you sustain that success post Diego Pavia? So these are two of the teams in the SEC that I think are really going to be fun to watch this year as they work through these young quarterbacks and what they can do.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see it, because I mean, it's no secret that Jared Curtis' ceiling is a lot higher than Diego Pavia's. So getting him to work with, Beck and Jerry Kill, like I'm excited to see how that works. And for Tennessee, you saw a really dumbed down playbook, a really conservative playbook from Josh Heupel with Joe Milton and with Nico Iamaleava, because they, would tend to overthrow guys, tend to put a little too much heat on balls. So the offense was a shell of what it was with Hendon Hooker in 22. It's all about getting the right guy to run your system, and there have been a lot of comparisons for Faizon Brandon to Hendon Hooker. So if that ends up being the case, then you can open up the playbook a lot more. But I wouldn't imagine that it would be too open, especially to a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, that's also part of it. Is I read off those stats of like Bryce Underwood and Dylan Raiola, and the production isn't really there, right? Like 13 touchdowns for Raiola, 11 for Bryce Underwood. There's also an element of, if you're going to put a true freshman out there, you've got to protect him. And he's not going to be slinging the ball around the yard 40 to 45 times a game. And I don't know what I'll ask you in a second about Tennessee's running back situation in the run game, but I feel really good about Vanderbilt's run game, bringing back Cedric Alexander. MK Young is back. James L. Lassiter is back. Like that trio of guys who they all bring different elements to this team. And I really like what the Commodores are bringing back in the run game. That's going to help Jared Curtis, where on first and second down, he can hand it off and hopefully be in a third and manageable, rather than being asked to drop back and throw the ball a ton every single weekend. What does Tennessee's run game look like? I know a lot of people mistake the Tennessee Josh Heupel offense as like, oh, it's an air raid. They want to throw it around. No, Josh Heupel loves running the football.
Yeah, no, they're always going to have a good run game. You can go back to 21. They've always Jabari Small and Dylan Sams, all those guys, they've always had a good run game, and that opens up the pass. So they have Deshaun Bishop coming back.
Right.
Deshaun Bishop was really good. They brought in a transfer from Tulane, Javin Gordon, who, access is so limited, so nobody was really able to see him in spring ball, but reports are that he had a really good spring, so that's encouraging. DeJuan Morris, former Oakland guy.
DeJuan Morris, I called one of his games a couple of years ago.
Yeah, expect him to get more touches this year. He worked a lot in the slot last year. He's one of those, dual threat scat backs type. So I don't really know what to expect from him, but you feel good with Deshaun Bishop coming back and then bringing in the Tulane transfer Javin Gordon.
Yeah, I think both of these young quarterbacks, if they are starting in 2026, the run game going to be their absolute best friend. 615-737-1025. Long way to go until college football season. We're still 3 months away, but getting a little closer here. What, SEC kickoff probably mid-July? I don't have the dates. I'm sure it's out there. I think it's in Tampa
And we have
this
spring
year.
meetings coming up.
Right. Let's see. I know SEC kickoff is in Tampa Bay. I can't find it. I don't know. The SEC schedule website makes it so difficult. But anyway, I'm excited for that as we get closer to football season, and both Tennessee and Vanderbilt going to be very intriguing programs heading into the new year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got one more hour left with you on this Reaction Monday. We'll get back into the NFL. Aaron Rodgers finally signed his contract this weekend. He is back. Why is he back? We'll talk about that. Also, we'll get into the Preds. Could this finally be the week that we get a hire for the Preds GM? We'll get into all of it. Oh, and Game 7 tonight. I'm fired up for Sabres Canadiens. All of that coming up in the final hour of the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game final hour on your Monday morning, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. I'm Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley at the controls, joining me today. It was a busy weekend, Parker. We haven't gotten into a lot of the stuff there. Did you watch any of Game 7 last night, Pistons and Cavs?
I watched a majority of it, and then when the Cavs started running away with it, I was kind of like, I had it on in the background, but I wasn't focused on it.
I watched till halftime, and I was like, all right, this game looks over, and I went to bed. But I am excited for Game 7 tonight. Sabres and Canadians, we can talk about that later. How about the PGA Championship? Aaron Rai wins it, which I got to say was not on my bingo card. I had my wishful thinking pick of Jordan Spieth on Friday for our Monday headlines, and he kind of faltered as he typically does on Friday. And then on Saturday, Justin Thomas made it interesting towards the end. John Rahm was in there, but yeah, Aaron Rai, just a one-time winner on the PGA, wins it, ran away with it with some just absolutely ridiculous shots down the stretch to pull away. So it was interesting. I mean, he's a very different type of golfer with the two gloves and the iron covers.
Kenny Pickett, actually.
Yeah, he talked about why he does all of that stuff, and he had good reasoning.
What is the? I didn't hear.
So he said that I forget what he said about the two gloves. That one wasn't good, but he said the iron covers was basically like his dad spent money that he didn't have to get him the nicest clubs when he was a kid, so that he could be successful. And they would spend time cleaning out every single groove of his irons after every round he played. And so that's why he puts the iron covers on, to remember where he came from. And I'm like, all right, I get that, even though it's a golf faux pas typically.
Well, the thing that stuck out to me was, he was he's born in England, right?
Yes.
So first English-born golfer to win in 107 years the PGA Championship.
The PGA Championship. How about that? All of the great English golfers that have come through and have never won the PGA, and Aaron Rai is the one to finally raise the Wanamaker. But it was an okay final round. Everybody was kind of grouped together for a while, and I got to say, I said when I think he got to 7 under and he was 2 shots up with like 7 holes to go, I said to my wife, I was like, he is going to fall apart, right? This is a guy who's never been there before. He's got Rahm and McIlroy and even like Ludwig Oberg, who has been the king of being right there but can't actually win it at the end. Man, I did not think Aaron Rai was going to have the ice in his veins that he did, but he drilled that 70-foot putt on 17 to ice it. I mean, it was great. Great.
The crowd went nuts.
No, and he had like just the most tame reaction ever, just a little subtle fist bump. So it was a fun weekend of sports. And the news over the weekend, finally, Aaron Rodgers has signed his contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he is back for at least one more season with Pittsburgh. And I got to ask, why? Like, I guess the Steelers team is solid. Like, looking at their squad, like there's enough talent on that team that they could compete in the AFC North, especially with, the Ravens going with Jesse Minter and no more John Harbaugh. Maybe they take a step back. Who knows what the Bengals are going to be? They've been one of the hardest teams to project year in and year out, just because they have the elite quarterback, but really haven't put much else around him besides Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And then the Browns, I think, are going to be one of the worst 5 teams in football. So, yeah, I guess there's a chance for the Steelers to make the playoffs, but I think you're just delaying the inevitable, which is the Steelers at some point are going to have to rebuild. We've had the conversation about the Preds, and we can get into the Preds GM search later in the hour too, of the Preds have never really undergone a true rebuild. And for the Steelers, with Mike Tomlin and the bizarre ability to just never have a losing record, yeah, it's cool, but do you really want to be 8-8, 9-7 every single year? And I do think that with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, it's like you're kind of in that same pool. Like, you're not going to go 4-13 with a coach like that and a quarterback who's been in the league that long, but you're also probably not going to go 12-5 and win your division and have a chance to make a run in the playoffs. So the Aaron Rodgers stuff, I kind of just wish it would just go away. Like,
Aaron Rodgers is never going away.
I just think he's prolonging this for absolutely no reason, and they're going to be okay this year. They're not going to be good. And is he going to do the same thing next year, where it's like, I said I might be done, but guess what? I'm coming back again. Like, where does it end for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, here's my frustration, because the Steelers are one of the most historic brands in all of the NFL. And they have 6 Super Bowls, tied for the most, they are tied for the most. But here's the thing about the Steelers is their standard is to win Super Bowls, not to be mediocre and squeak into the playoffs. And they haven't won a playoff game in 7 years. So they're never good enough to, compete for a Super Bowl, but they're never bad enough to get a high draft pick. So they're constantly in this cycle. And then on top of that, they keep signing these bridge quarterbacks, right? It was Aaron Rodgers. Before that, it was Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. And I know you drafted Kenny Pickett, but it wasn't like he was this superb talent coming out of college.
Well, so that's why I think they have PTSD. After the Kenny Pickett pick, they took him late in the first round and thought, you know what, let's take a flyer. Kind of like, to bring up the Aaron Rodgers comparison, kind of like Jordan Love. That's what the Packers did with Jordan Love. They said, you know what, we're going to draft a quarterback. The difference was that Aaron Rodgers still had more in the tank. Ben Roethlisberger didn't. Was Roethlisberger still there when Pickett was drafted? Was that his last year?
I don't think so.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe Roethlisberger was already gone at that point.
I don't think that was the case.
But anyway, I think they have PTSD because they took him and obviously it blew up in their face. And it's like, all right, well,
but it was just a missed evaluation. That's all it was.
But they're never in position to draft a quarterback. Like last year, they could have drafted Jackson Dart. They decided not to.
But you also have the option of trading up too. That's what's been plaguing the Steelers. It's never going to be their defense. And, they have some decent weapons, right? DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman and Jalen Warren.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just depleted of weapons, but they just haven't figured out the quarterback thing since Ben Roethlisberger.
The team overall looks pretty strong. Like, you look at the weapons for Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Warren,
Rico Dowdle is there.
Rico Dowdle.
They drafted Caleb Johnson last year.
They did. Yep. They got Heidenreich, the guy from Navy in the 7th round. Not that I think he's going to make the team.
Pat Freiermuth.
They got Metcalf, Michael Pittman they traded for. They drafted Jeremy Bernard. Like that. That's a solid group of weapons for Aaron Rodgers. The defense, you've got TJ Watt. You got Cameron Hayward. Older, aging guys, but still solid on the front line. You've got Joey
Queen, Porter
Jr.,
Alex Highsmith,
Deshaun Elliott. They signed Jaquan Brisker from the Bears. Like, there is talent on this team for the Steelers, but it's not Super Bowl talent. It's like borderline playoff talent with a borderline playoff quarterback and a borderline playoff coach. And with the Steelers, I just go suck for a year or two and try and get that quarterback, because as we've seen with teams around the league, it's like you can try and patch things together with a good roster and an average quarterback, and it just doesn't work.
Because Will Howard's not going to be your guy. You might be. I mean, Drew Aller has the intangibles, but he just never figured it out at Penn State. So if you're starting over from scratch with him, I don't know how good they are at developing these younger quarterbacks. Clearly, the last few years have not been great.
Right.
So you can't really ride with that.
I just don't see what the plan is here long term for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like,
you gotta trade up and get a guy.
Yeah, and
you can't just trust that one's gonna fall.
It's like you got to mortgage your future to do that. And the issue is, in order to trade up, you have to have a dance partner, right? Like, you have to find somebody has to be in position to draft one of those quarterbacks and doesn't want to do it themselves. And like the last couple of years, that hasn't been the case. Cam Ward sitting at the top. The Titans weren't trading that pick this year. Fernando Mendoza, the Raiders aren't trading that pick. So I just look at it and say the Steelers seem to be content just being
that's what bugs me, because that's not the Steelers way. And like I have so many friends that are Steelers fans, and I ask them, like, are you okay with this? And of course the answer is going to be no, but they didn't want to, see Tomlin leave. And I get all that. He's been around forever. But at some point, you got to make a move to get back to what your standard is.
Yeah.
You can't keep just being mediocre. That's not the Steeler way.
And I'd love to know from Steelers fans, like, it's the same exact conversation we have with the Predators of, would you be fine with 2 or 3 years of being horrible in order to get back to where you were?
And that's a little bit of a different conversation because the Preds don't have the history that Pittsburgh has.
They don't have the same standard, but everybody's standard should be to win a championship.
Exactly.
Like, I don't care what you've done in the past. Everybody should be trying to go win a championship. And I think for the Steelers, you look at one of their biggest rivals over the past 20 years, the Patriots. The Patriots were in a similar situation. They lost their long-term quarterback. They lost their long-term coach, and they sucked for a few years. But they found the quarterback in Drake May. They were bad enough to pick third and get the quarterback, and they were back in the Super Bowl 2 years later. Like, it's a recipe that has worked, and it doesn't always work. You know, if you're the Steelers and you do tear it down and you go with a young quarterback and you go with an up and coming coach, and it could blow up in your face and you're bad for 5 years. But in a quarterback driven league and a quarterback driven conference, especially, re-signing Aaron Rodgers for another year and hoping Drew Aller develops as a 3rd round pick doesn't seem like a solid
That
plan
is a
to me.
huge if. Huge if.
I just don't like it.
Because Drew Aller had all the starting experience in Pitt State and just never really figured it out.
Right.
I mean, sure, he has a strong arm. Sure, he can move. Sure, he's big. But if you're not making the throws, Drew Aller's problem was he was too conservative. He didn't let it rip a lot of the times. In the NFL, you have to be able to let it rip.
He did have some moments, though. Like, was it the
But it's few and far.
The Fiesta Bowl against against Boise State? Like,
the throw to Tyler Warren in the back of the end zone?
He made some throws in that game.
Yeah.
But as we've seen with guys like Will Levis, too, there's,
Levis had moments.
Not to use another James Franklin Penn State guy at one point, but making the throws doesn't make you a great quarterback.
No.
You got to do it consistently.
Yes.
And a highlight reel does not make you a good quarterback. You've got to have the tape that backs it up.
And that plays into the arrogance. A lot of these organizations think, I can fix it.
Right.
I can fix it. Well, let's see.
Yep.
Let's see how this works.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on your Monday morning. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman and Parker Kelley with you for a few more segments on this Monday morning. Aaron Rodgers officially has re-signed with the Steelers. He will be back for at least one more year in the NFL. And
One more year.
How old is he now? 43?
Yeah, he'll be 43 in August, I believe.
December. Okay. So
December?
43 in December.
Okay.
So, still spry.
I thought it was before
at
the
42.
season, but I guess I'm wrong.
Robert in Nashville makes a good point. He says Aaron Rodgers' mentor was Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers hasn't even officially retired once yet. He's still got 2 to go before he can officially retire. So we'll have to see.
I guess that's true.
But
I guess that's true.
I guess there's a good chance now. He's got to stay healthy. Good chance Aaron Rodgers is the starting quarterback for the final game in the old Nissan Stadium on January 3rd.
Wouldn't that be something? I am a big Aaron, I'm not necessarily the person, but watching him play. I love watching Aaron Rodgers play, so that would be cool to see.
I mean that it would definitely be a draw for me, better than watching Drew Aller or Will Howard.
Will Howard sling the pill.
Dustin from Hopkinsville says, "Wait, you guys don't think Howard's going to be worth developing? I'm excited to see him when Rodgers is gone." Dustin, if they thought Will Howard was worth developing, they wouldn't have taken Drew Aller in the third round.
I was a huge defendant of Will Howard in college. He's not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this with a lot of players, and it kind of outside of. Now, there are some baseball players that are like this too. I think all sports, there are guys that you watch play in college and you're like, yeah, they're good players. That's not going to play at the next level. Luka Garza was the guy I always said it with Iowa. It's like he was a great college basketball player, but his game was just not going to translate to the next level. Will Howard, I feel the same way. That dude is one of those guys, he was a winner in college. He was perfect for what Ohio State needed him to be to go win that national championship. But I just don't think he's going to be an NFL quarterback. And if the Steelers did think he was going to be an NFL quarterback, they wouldn't have taken Drew Aller in the third round.
They wouldn't have brought back Aaron Rodgers.
Right. That I think
he had a year to sit.
It's the truest thing in all of sports is that organizations don't like to tell you what they think of players, but they show you what they think of players based on what they do. And when you bring back a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who was just okay last year, and you draft a quarterback in the third round, it shows you that the guy they drafted in the 5th round the year before, they don't think he's worth. Yeah, 6th round. It tells you that he's more of a camp body than anything else. So
he's like Mason Rudolph's their backup. Will Howard, the third string.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what that means for Drew Aller.
I forgot Mason Rudolph was back there.
There's a good chance they could be, they won't carry 4, but, somebody's going to have to be demoted to the practice squad or cut.
Yeah, but I was almost going to say, how about Mason Rudolph being the starting quarterback in Week 17 against the Titans? But Mason Rudolph will not be the starter for them. If Aaron Rodgers got hurt, they would go to the one of the young guys, because what would be the point? You know what Mason Rudolph is. There's absolutely 0 point in throwing him out there and letting him play. 4312 says Vince Young, definition of great college, terrible pro. In terms of production, yes, but that's not the type of player I'm talking about. When you watched Vince Young in college, it wasn't like you said, oh, he's not going to pan out at the next level. Like, for me, that was Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel. Like, you watch those guys play and you're like, yeah, that's really good college player. That's not going to translate at the next level.
Tim Tebow's not going to be running over people in the NFL like he did at Florida.
Right. Like Tim and Manziel, I think his game would have translated better to the pros than Tebow's would have. But obviously all the off the field stuff was a huge red flag with that. Tim Tebow never was going to be a good NFL quarterback.
I loved him.
Which I am so shocked that somebody convinced themselves to take him in the first round. I mean,
when you win a Heisman Trophy and you win a national championship,
I mean, one of the greatest college football players of all time. But there's that one felt obvious to me. And when Tebow was playing, I was not like super old and like it's not like I was in college.
I was 6. To give away my age there, I was 6.
But even I was like, yeah, that's not going to play at the next level. And I didn't really understand why the Broncos convinced themselves that it might. He'll always have the great throw to Demaryius Thomas. to beat the Steelers in the playoffs, but I mean, it was.
He'll always have the John 3:16 game.
God, the next week against the Patriots in the playoffs was just ugly. After that Demaryius Thomas overtime touchdown. Those are the types of players I'm talking about. Vince Young, I don't think would qualify as that. That's not somebody that you could tell while they were playing in college that their game wasn't going to translate. Vince Young just wasn't a very good pro football player. It happens.
It happens.
There's a difference between guys getting to the pros and not living up to expectations and guys who you can tell in college that their game just doesn't translate. In the NBA, it's easier to make those comparisons. Like the NBA is the sport where you can tell immediately. It's like if you're not an athletic freak, unless you just shoot the lights out, you're probably not going to play in the NBA. Like all these big men that can dominate in college basketball because of their ability in the paint and their footwork and all that stuff. But
everybody can do that in the NBA.
Right. If you're not an athletic freak.
If you can't shoot threes like Evan Mobley
right.
and handle the ball at the court, you're not playing in the NBA.
Yeah, it's just that's the easiest one. Football, it's harder to make that determination. I think quarterback is really the only position that you can truly look at and say, yeah, that's not going to work at the NFL level. But I think Tebow is definitely an example of that. I don't even know how we got. Oh, Will Howard was how.
Yeah,
I was like, what bridge did we take to get over
drop
here?
Off from Tebow and Manziel to Will Howard.
But Aaron Rodgers is back. I think the Steelers will be okay this year, and that division is weaker than it usually is. But I will say a lot can change until January 3rd, 2027. But if it's Aaron Rodgers at quarterback coming into Nissan Stadium for that final game, I think the Titans would have a very good chance to win that game. I just don't. I
picked them to win it.
Aaron Rodgers just doesn't. I don't think it's there anymore.
I mean, he's serviceable.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not.
But you can tell he's not as spry as he once was.
He's not going to be the worst quarterback in the league. But it's just like I just don't.
Like watching him run in the Houston Texans game just hurt me to watch him run.
Right. Well, he can't run, and I think the arm strength is slowly deteriorating. Like it's not quite noodle arm Peyton Manning from that last year with the Broncos, but it's definitely not what it used to be. I don't think the Steelers are going to get back to Pittsburgh Steelers type of standards until they suck for a little bit.
Yeah, which I mean they haven't sucked in a long time. So yeah. I don't know how that would go over with the fan base, but this is not the Steeler way. And that drives me crazy because if you're going to have a standard, you got to hold yourself accountable to that standard.
Yeah, no, I agree. Caleb on the YouTube chat says they were both first rounders, though, talking about Manziel and Tebow. Yeah, and I don't understand why with Tim Tebow. Like Manziel, I think the concerns were more off the field. Obviously, his game was not quite the central casting for an NFL quarterback either. He was smaller. But
a lot harder to do backyard football in the NFL.
But like Tebow was a lefty who made most of his hay just by being more physical than everybody else.
I mean,
it wasn't
about run people over.
It wasn't about the arm talent. Like Caleb, I understand they were first rounders, but all it takes is one stupid team to make you a first rounder.
You know, the first overall pick, Jamarcus Russell. He was the first overall pick. Yeah. How did he do?
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take all of your thoughts on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We got 30 more minutes left in the show. We'll talk a little Preds. We'll talk some hockey too. Sabres, Canadiens. Buffalo is going to be rocking tonight. I cannot wait for Game 7. Winner moves on to face the Carolina Hurricanes, who could have done like a 2-week vacation somewhere before between their second round series and when they'll finally start the Eastern Conference Finals. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman and Parker Kelley with you. 30 minutes left in this show. Chasing Big Joe coming up at the top of the hour. Quickly before we shift over to hockey, we were just having the conversation about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers quarterback room, Will Howard, etc., and saying that the Drew Aller pick basically tells you what they think of Will Howard. Well, behind us on Pat McAfee, apparently as that was happening, Adam Schefter was saying, I think the Steelers organization is very high on Will Howard. They are big believers in what he brings to the table. Yeah, that's why they just spent a third-round pick on another quarterback.
Sure.
Like,
We'll go with that.
Why not just light the third-round pick on fire then if you believe Will Howard might be your franchise quarterback? This is like when the Titans drafted Will Levis. And I know it's a higher pick in the second round versus the third round, but by drafting Will Levis in 2023, you told everybody that you did not believe Malik Willis was your franchise quarterback moving forward. And we saw that play out a year later when he got traded for a 7th round pick. And, guess what? When Ryan Tannehill went down, yes, Malik Willis came into the game as the backup quarterback in London against Baltimore. But the next week, after the bye week, when they came back, who was your starting quarterback? It was Will Levis. You don't draft Drew Aller if you are very high as an organization on Will Howard. I think that's ridiculous. But anyway, who knows what's going on over there in the Steel City? They've got.
What do we know?
They got Aaron Rodgers. They got Mason Rudolph, Drew Aller, Will Howard. I mean, one of those guys is not making the team at the very minimum. Is it Mason Rudolph? Like, are they just going to cut Mason Rudolph? Maybe. I guess Ryan Florida texted and said Mason Rudolph will be traded or released. I guess he kind of has to be right if you're very high on Will Howard and you just spent a 3rd round pick on Drew Aller.
I mean, what are you going to do?
That really leaves
Can't
you
bring 4 quarterbacks into the season.
Leaves you absolutely no choice. I just think that it's Schefter maybe carrying water for the Steelers, trying to drive up possible trade value for Will Howard. There are lots of young quarterbacks that teams are trying to trade right now. Tonight, Game 7, Bills, Canadiens. And what a game it was on Friday. I have taken on an honorary Buffalo Sabres fan role this postseason with the Preds out. One of my closest friends is a very big Buffalo sports fan. He is a diehard Sabres fan, so I've been all in on the Sabres. And I got to say, what a disastrous start. Well, take that back. The Sabres scored 30 seconds in on Friday night. And then Alex Lyon gives up 3 goals on 3 shots. They did go back and gave him a save for one of the early shots from the Canadiens. But when he was pulled from the game, the stat book read 3 shots faced, 3 goals allowed for Alex Lyon as he walked off to the bench.
8 goals given up collectively on Saturday in the Bell Center.
11 goals given up total.
I was just talking about for Montreal, but
yeah. Well, no. This was the Sabres goalie who gave up 3 goals on 3 shots. And then got benched for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who came in and he was good. He didn't give up a goal the rest of the game. And the Sabres won 8-3. The road team has kind of dominated in this series, but I'm riding with the Sabres. Go Buff. Let's go Buffalo.
So I have the script. I know exactly what's going to happen tonight. The Canadiens are winning Game 7 tonight. You want to know why? And I love Buffalo. They deserve a winner. If the Bills aren't going to get over the hump, at least let the Sabres. But no, it's not going to happen. You know why? The Canadiens haven't lost back-to-back games since March.
Really?
Yep. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, and I do think top to bottom, the Canadiens are probably the better team. But the vibes, though, in Buffalo,
I know, but the Canadiens have gone in there and just don't care.
No, I know. Yeah, well, right. Like the game was Thursday night.
The game that they had Josh Allen shotgunning a beer before the game, the Canadiens ripped them apart.
Oh, sorry, I said Friday for Game 6. It was Saturday for Game 6.
Yeah.
Game 5 on Thursday, where it was back and forth, and then just an onslaught of Montreal goals. The goalie situation has been tough for Buffalo in this series. I would make the assumption UPL is going to be in net tonight. I mean, I don't think you can put Alex Lyon back out there after what he just did in Montreal. I'm riding with the Sabres. I think they get it done at home in front of that crowd tonight. But
we will come back here tomorrow and see.
But as we talked about in their opening series against Boston, where they were able to avoid Game 7 in Buffalo, just reeks of double overtime heartbreak loss.
We needed an overtime game, I feel like. That's what this series deserves.
It reeks of double overtime loss.
We finally got a game 7 in the second round. This one needs to go to overtime.
Yeah.
But I'm rooting for Buffalo. Like, I want Buffalo to win, but the Canadians are going to win.
Well, yeah, 4312 says down with Canada, go Buffalo. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at too, of like,
I don't want Canada to have success in our sport.
It was 1993 was the last Canadian Stanley Cup.
The U.S. runs hockey now.
Yeah, I mean, we won the Olympics, got the gold medal.
And the women did too, and then the Paralympics. The men also won the gold over Canada.
Yeah, I believe that is the Montreal Canadiens was 1993. That was the last Canadian team to win the cup. They're the last one standing. Give me Buffalo to win this one. Although I will say, I think no matter what happens in this game tonight, we are on track for a Colorado-Carolina.
Colorado's
Stanley
not.
Cup final.
Colorado may win that in 4.
Well, I
think it's going to be 5.
Vegas has been playing better. And how about Vegas not doing media after Game 6, after winning the series, by the way, and not having Torts go up and talk to the media?
Yeah,
Didn't
he get fined for that?
They got fined and they lost a second-round pick. In one night, they lost their second-round pick in 2026 because of the fine, and their second-round pick in 2027 because by moving on to the conference finals, the pick that was sent in the Nick Hague trade in 2027 was upgraded to a second-round pick. So how about that? They lost 2 second-round picks in one night.
Not sure that's the hill you want to die on, but
I think Vegas would be okay with that, though. Like if they win the Stanley Cup, no one is going to complain about not having a second-round pick this year, but I just don't see it happening.
If the Avalanche beat the Wild in 5 games, Vegas does not stand a chance. For me, it's going to be Carolina and Colorado. Those have been the 2 best teams. The one thing that worries me about that is just the layoff for Carolina. They have had a while.
May 9th was their last game. So they
have yet to lose so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Right.
First team ever.
And that's not going to continue. I would say whoever wins tonight gets at least one game. My pick would probably be Carolina in 6, no matter who the opponent is. But because Buffalo won on Saturday, now they will go 12 days without playing a hockey game before their game 1 in Raleigh. That is a long, long time to go without playing.
Double bye.
That's the only thing that worries me is the rust for Carolina. But I do think we're going to get Hurricanes and Avalanche in the Stanley Cup final, and I think that's going to be a great Stanley Cup final.
That would be very entertaining. I think Carolina is the only team that could stand in Colorado's way right now.
Yes, I agree. I think those 2 teams are the 2 best, and if one of them gets upset in the conference finals, I think the other one wins the Stanley Cup. It's kind of the opposite in the NBA of I think whoever comes out of the West wins in a gentleman's sweep.
For the Knicks, it would just be an accomplishment to make it to the finals.
Yeah, and the Cavs. Like, I think...
Yeah, true. Without LeBron?
Yeah. Well, yeah, with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden finally getting back, because Harden hasn't been back to the finals since the 13 finals with the Thunder, right?
Ooh, because he never played with the Rockets in the finals, right?
No, they lost most years to the Warriors
when they were the 1 seed.
That was like him and Chris Paul every year ran into the buzzsaw that was Golden State.
No, you would be right.
And then they never went with the Nets, never went with the Clippers. So yeah, this would be his first time in the finals since that Thunder Heat series back in the day. I just think Spurs or Thunder, whoever comes out of the West, wins in 5 or less. Like, I just don't think that's going to be a series.
5 or less.
Yeah, I don't think that series gets to 6.
You may be right about that, especially if it's OKC the way that they're playing right now. Yeah, they're going back to back. Give
me Thunder or Spurs over either
the
Cavs or the Knicks. I think that's your de facto NBA Finals is Spurs Thunder. But I think in the NHL, you may have less entertaining conference finals with Carolina and Colorado, but I do think the Stanley Cup final, that could be a 7-game series. It really could.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. I've really enjoyed the playoffs this year in both sports. So
Yeah, I have not gotten into the NBA quite as much. I did watch some of Game 7. I just wish it wasn't a blowout.
it was a total blowout.
I mean, it wasn't close. Who was the guy for the Cavs? I'm blanking on his name. Who just shot the lights out last night?
Was it the? It wasn't the Wade guy. It was the.
No, it was.
I know who you're talking
somebody's
about.
gonna text it in.
He came from like DePaul.
Sam Merrill.
Yes.
Yeah, Sam Merrill. Yeah, he was. I mean, that 4-point play he had. I was like, all right, yeah, this might be over. Cavs are locked in tonight. Anyway, tonight, Game 7. A Game 7 I'm much more excited for. Sabres and Canadiens. I've got Buffalo. 4312 says hockey is our sport. Maple syrup people. I agree.
What even is Canadian ham or whatever? Bacon?
Yeah, Canadian bacon.
Yeah,
it's just ham.
It's ham.
It's just ham. Yeah.
Throw a little extra salt on there. That's all it is.
The Canadian mind cannot comprehend what Buffalo is going to look like tonight.
0 SEC championship.
I will say Montreal, they showed up on Saturday night.
I would like to go to the Bell Center at
place
some point.
Was rocking.
Yeah, no, it was.
When they sang "Oh Canada," I've got like chills a little bit. But anyway, hockey's an American sport now. Got to send them home tonight. Go Sabres. 615-737-1025. We got one more segment on the show. Last call for phones. We will wrap up the show after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Wrapping up the show on this Reaction Monday. Chase and Big Joe are coming up right after us. Tomorrow on the show, Dr. Crane rejoins us. And as people have gone after Corey Curtis for his Prince Michael Jackson
we have
take,
some things for him tomorrow.
I think we've got to talk some sense into Nick Frazier after his Jalen Hurts Cam Ward take.
That just can't be acceptable to say on these airways.
Yeah, we won't get into it today. That we'll save it for tomorrow. But yeah, we have to have a talking to our young friend, Dr. Crane. Big news today. The Super Bowl likely going to be awarded to Nashville tomorrow. The NFL owners going to vote on Super Bowl 64 in 2030 being played at the new Nissan Stadium. We spent some time on it earlier in the show about what the halftime show could be. But I just think it's exciting that this is happening already, that Nashville kind of jumped the line of all of these new dome stadiums that are going to be built in the next decade. You know, Chicago, whether it's in actually Chicago or in Indiana, Cleveland's getting one, Washington's getting one. Like, all these new stadiums are going to put themselves in line for a Super Bowl. The Titans getting one in 2030 is absolutely massive for this city, and it'll lead to other events coming here. I heard Robbie and Joe this morning talking about when's the Final Four going to come? When is the College Football Playoff National Championship going to come here? I think the Super Bowl is the catalyst for all of those giant events being played at the new Nissan Stadium within the next decade or so.
Yeah, I know WrestleMania is being talked about as well, College Football Playoff National Championships. I mean, Nashville, there's a huge migration to the Southeast, but, Nashville specifically. So with how well the draft did here in 2019, it's a no-brainer to host any big event here, especially in a new stadium.
Yeah, and I think the Super Bowl is going to be a litmus test a little bit of, can this city hold up for an event that size? I know the draft was big. It was a couple 100,000 people every day. And, CMA Fest is coming up in a couple of weeks. Nashville handles that great every year. But the Super Bowl will be a good, marker of what this city can handle, and can they do the Super Bowl to the level that it needs to be done. And if they can, I have a feeling Nashville is going to be one of those cities that the NFL wants to come back to plenty, right? Like, this is a city that has grown in terms of being a tourist destination, as I know a lot of locals are not super thrilled with. Like, it is a destination place to come. Every sports team that comes here is like traveling extra people because they want to spend the time in Nashville. Like, they're coming in early, they're staying late. This is a city that people want to be. And if Nashville and the Titans crush the Super Bowl in 2030, I have a feeling that they will be added to the permanent rotation. Maybe not every 5 years, but maybe once a decade, you get a Super Bowl here in the Music City.
Would be a huge success. Atlanta does a great job hosting these big events. Nashville, I mean, it's being talked about for expansion, in the MLB, and that's a conversation for another time. But at the same time, everybody wants to come here. And there are a lot of tourists every year, so it just makes all the sense in the world. And I'm sure Nashville's going to crush it in 2030. Can't wait.
Yeah, the infrastructure obviously needs a build up here of, will the traffic be a little more palatable at that point? I doubt it. I mean, it seems to only get worse. Will you be able to accommodate all of the other stuff that comes with the Super Bowl? Like, where's Radio Row going to be? Will they put it out at like the Opryland, or will it be at Music City Center? I would guess Music City Center would be where all of like the Super Bowl experience stuff is. But the East Bank, right? Like, what's the East Bank going to look like by the time the Super Bowl is here? I think that's a realistic goal, for that to be the hub that everybody's talking about it being, of entertainment and restaurants and hotels and all that. I think by the Super Bowl, you'd like to see the development of the area around the new Nissan Stadium more than just the stadium and, parking lots like is there right now. But I'm excited. I really think this is going to be a success. And I'm glad that the Titans are able to to solidify this early. I thought it might be until next year, until we heard officially that the Titans or that Nashville was going to get the Super Bowl, just like we just heard Las Vegas officially was getting the 2029 one. So I think it's awesome that we get to find out, May of 2026, got 3 years to get ready.
Yeah, I feel like they usually do a pretty good job announcing these things well in advance. And also, too, I wonder if when Dan Patrick said it on his show about, what he had heard, I wonder if that sped up the process a little.
That could be it, of the report or rumor from Dan Patrick saying that he heard it was basically almost signed and sealed, ready to be signed and sealed. I think maybe that could have sped up the process. Keegan on the text line asks, how many years do y'all think it will take until we call new Nissan just Nissan Stadium? Old Nissan will just stay LP Field for all the OGs, not me. Oh, I mean, it could be. Do we just go back and call it Adelphia Coliseum?
Yeah.
Just go back to the original name? I think you call it new Nissan Stadium until there's no Nissan. Right. I think that's the day that the old Nissan Stadium gets demolished. I think is the day that we start just calling it Nissan Stadium again.
Oh, I agree. I mean, because we technically have two right now. So the Nissan Stadium that they currently play in and the new one's being constructed. So we got to differentiate between the two.
Right.
But when there's no longer old, then it's just Nissan Stadium.
This year specifically, when it's the last year in the current Nissan Stadium, like I think you have to differentiate. But by next year, like by this time next year, I don't think we're going to be referring it to as new Nissan Stadium. I think it'll just be Nissan Stadium.
Nissan Stadium. And I can't wait.
I am excited.
27.
The new stadium. It looks great. Now, there is a lot that still has to be done, right? Like we saw the tours that they did. It still looked like a skeleton of what everything needs to be. And obviously the most important part is getting the structure built and everything, but all the finer details does take a while too. I wonder, they said February, right, is when it's going to be ready. That was the expectation.
That seems really soon.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't. February of 2027 always felt like such a far out date. And now you look down, you're like, oh, that's 9 months away is when they said it's going to be ready. I would guess that gets pushed back a little bit, but I think they said February just to give themselves the buffer room to be ready for September. Because obviously that's
if it gets pushed back to March or April, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. And that could be part of why maybe Nashville didn't go after a bid for the draft. I thought it was a perfect opportunity for Nashville to get the draft back in 2027 as kind of a soft opening of the stadium. Like you could have the draft experience inside the stadium across the river. And it's like everybody gets a first look preview at it before the games start being played in there. But I do wonder if they were like, yeah, we're not so sure that it's going to be ready in time.
Yeah, no, that would be the only reason I feel like they wouldn't have done that. Just in case it's not. Just in case there's hiccups.
Right. And the draft next year is in DC, I think.
Yes.
Which
lots of big things coming for DC. They have a UFC fight there, coming
the
up
White House lawn, right?
in June.
For no, it's July, isn't it?
No, it's June.
Oh, is it June?
Like mid-June 14th?
Okay, maybe
I'm not a UFC guy, but I will watch.
Because they're doing it for the 250th anniversary of America, right? Like Independence Day. Donald Trump said he wanted like a 100,000 seat stadium on the White House lawn. I was like, that's a little ambitious. The NFL saying that tomorrow. That's a great one. Nick Frazier used it perfectly the other day. I can't remember what the context was, but I remember laughing on the way home. 615-737-1025. Good stuff on the text line today, especially great stuff on our Super Bowl halftime question.
Man,
I thought we got
that was a great discussion.
Really good stuff. We will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier. Lots to get into. Titans. We didn't get to the Preds today. We'll do some Preds talk tomorrow as they continue their search for a general manager. But that does it for us today. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next with plenty of reaction to the news of the day. Nissan Stadium possibly getting the Super Bowl starting tomorrow for 2030. That does it for us. Keep it right here. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.